I'm Codie Sanchez, and this is for those of you who don't want to just be rich but free and are willing to do what it takes to get there. Okay, this week we've got Jesse Itzler. This man is an absolute legend. He is married to, famously, Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx and now Sneaks, her new company. He started Zyko coconut water company, which sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. He started Marquis Jet, which sold for billions of dollars to NetJet. He started more companies than he can remember that are multi-million dollar companies and a few others that are 8-figure-a-year companies. The weirdest part, though, is he's so humble and he lives his life by this code that I find fascinating. The code is essentially this: how can we create a life so good that we look back on it and every single year we think that I lived it with adventure? So I hope you guys enjoy this conversation as much as I do. He's also kind of hysterical and a beautiful storyteller. But before we get into the interview, I want to share a quick business tip that I've been thinking about a lot lately. It's eliminate, automate, delegate. Famously Tim Ferriss, but if you assess the tasks in that order, your business runs 10x more smoothly. I learned it from him and I'm still doing it today. I'm always looking for tools to help eliminate tasks, automate them, and then make the delegating them easier. So one of those tools is Riverside, the sponsor of today's podcast episode. Not only can it record 4K videos and audio remotely to ensure your podcast quality is top-notch, but it also drastically improved my team's editing speed with the text-based editor. So it basically transcribes your footage, removes silences in one click, and creates short clips just by selecting the text. Even better, if you make a flub, which I never do, obviously, then you can delete the sentence in the transcript and it will delete it from your video instantly. Riverside has an in-platform editor where you can upload your own content too, so it's not just footage recorded on Riverside that gets the special treatment. So how do people find new podcasts? Often from seeing clips online. Riverside understands this, and that's why I love their AI magic clips, which analyze moments in your podcast that have the most potential to get traction online. So this saves hours of listening to your podcast for the 50th time to find the perfect clip. Riverside got you covered. So don't waste your time doing what Riverside can do for you. I got you guys a deal. If you want to try it out for yourself, get the Riverside link in the description and use code CODY for an exclusive discount. If I'm not wrong, you have run a marathon in a coconut inflatable sack outfit. You were a rapper, sang jingles, and also seem to have a penchant for like running up to famous people, getting them to do certain things. And I was just wondering, do you not care what other people think?
You would be doing all the same stuff before if the internet wasn't here. I didn't have a choice. Like when I was, making my way up in the business world, we had to do anything we could to get like attention without clicks. So it was just the marketing and the way we went about everything was totally different. So like, you mentioned running a marathon in a coconut. I was in a coconut package, like a bottle of our package. And I had 6 friends. We were 6-pack. And Gatorade had paid like $1 bazillion to be the title sponsor of the New York Marathon. And our company was doing like $1 million, like $2 million in sales. Like it was nothing in beverage. And we're like, we gotta, we ambushed the New York Marathon basically. We ran but you had to do those things back then to stand out. So yes.
But are you ever freaked out when you do things like that? Or just go, fuck it, I'm here?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you want to be part of being an entrepreneur is you have to get over the fear of being embarrassed. It's like the best gift you can give yourself in anything, entrepreneur or not. Once you get over the fear of being embarrassed, it's so liberating. And the only way to do that is to put yourself in situations that are embarrassing.
What was like the first one that you did? That was like, do you remember like back in the day where you're like, oof?
Yeah.
What was it?
I was 15 years old. I grew up in New York in the 80s when when breakdancing and hip hop was just coming on the scene. I was in New York. It was the heartbeat of everything. And I know I don't look like it, but I got into breakdancing. And I said to my friend who was like my partner in this, Myron, I'm like, man, let's go to Washington, D.C. There's no way the kids in D.C. are as good as us. Like, we're from New York, So I convinced my sister, who just got her driver's license, to drive us down to Washington, D.C. from New York City. And we had this boom box. And the whole ride down, I was flipping out. I'm like, we're going to get out of our car and set up a boom box in a parking lot somewhere in Georgetown. Like, I was just nervous, And what if we're not good? What if kids are better than us? What if no one shows up? And all these thoughts that we all have about centered around self-doubt. So anyway, so we get out there, we put the boombox down. He starts doing his thing, I start doing my thing. A crowd forms around us, and we take off our hat. We're collecting money. It's like working. And at the end of 3 hours, we had like $80, and I paid my sister for the gas, and we split like, I think we split $80, like $40 to Myron, $40 in singles to me. I like stuffed my pocket, and I ran over to him. I counted all the money. Then I counted all the money again, and then I gave him a bear hug, and I'm like, Myron, we're fucking rich. But it was the first time in my life that I was like, if I could get over that fear and get rewarded, then like, whoa, like I just got paid, even though I was really scared. And it doesn't sound like a meaningful lesson, but it was for me at 14, because I was like, all right, butterflies are okay.
That's did it ever not work out for you to do something really scary?
A million times. I've been booed off stages. I mean, I had Codie. I had a record out, like, right after college. I signed to a record label called Delicious Vinyl, and there was a magazine called Rap Pages, which was like a big hip hop magazine in the early 90s. I get off a plane, and I look to the left of me, and there's a magazine rack in the airport, and I'm like, I'm on the cover of Rap Pages. So I flipped out. I'm like, how can no one tell me that? Like, they didn't even call me and tell me. So I bought like the 13 magazine. I'm going to send it to everyone. I'm on the fucking cover of Rap Pages. And as I'm going to check out, I'm like, I want to read the article. So I go to open it up, and it says, "Are white rappers ruining hip hop?" And I was the cover child of that. So I mean, like, I've had egg on my face, and it was just. So
Did you still buy them?
What's that?
Did you still buy the magazine?
No, hell no. I was so mad at the writer. I was embarrassed. I thought everyone in the world was looking at me like, that's the kid that's ruining hip hop. That's the kid. But no one cared. I did a show. I had a song that I did for the Denver Broncos when I was writing sports songs, which is something that I did. And they won the Super Bowl, so I performed it at the Super Bowl. There were 675,000 people there, and I forgot the words.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, but that's part of, look, if you want to have an exceptional life, you got to put yourself in exceptional situations. And it doesn't always work out, but you have to put yourself in those situations.
You do that a lot.
A lot. I still do it.
Your life, well, one, it kind of makes sense because you have this big ass calendar that's huge that I used, which is, I think, when I first started going back and forth with you.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so weirdly cool. I put up this big, huge calendar, and I blocked off all of the days on it that I wanted to have my, you call it masogis.
Yeah.
And it totally changed our year. And we actually ended up doing a bunch of stuff. I work too much, so sometimes I just end up being in a spreadsheet all year. And then all of a sudden you're 85, and I'm not 85, but I'm 38. I'm like, oh my God, what did I do this year? I just did business.
Right.
And so it seems like that's always been part of your life, inserting that. Is that true? Like, how do you live an exceptional life?
Well, first of all, to your point, most people spend so much time, scheduling their work days. Every Monday through Friday is like appointment, schedule, Zoom call, whatever. And very little time scheduling their personal life. Like, when are we taking trips? When's date night? What races am I doing? What concerts am I going to? So their calendar fills up with work stuff. And I think it's really important to prioritize yourself first. And when you have the big ass calendar like that we have, we're all visual. So you can see all 365 days of the year on one calendar. You can see where your time's going, and you can also track towards your goals. So I think a calendar is one of them, if not the most important planning tool people can have in business and their personal life. As far as, what was the question though specifically?
Well, actually, I have a follow-up now. So if you're going to schedule your life, how do you use the big ass calendar? Lots of people have goals, goal setting. You have some weird ways you do it. How do you do it?
Well, the first thing is I put all the things that are important, that I know that are important to me, on my calendar first. So for example, like, I take a one-on-one trip with my kids, or that goes on the calendar. Stuff that I'm doing with my wife, with Sarah, like our trips, or big events that I know I have, spring break trips, family trips, like that. If that doesn't happen, something else, your calendar is going to fill up. But then I have 3 rules that I do. So one is what you just mentioned, which is we tweak the definition of this, but there's an old Japanese ritual called the misogi, the way we've interpreted it is you do one big year defining thing a year that really defines your year. And it has to be big. So like, you want to have something to show for your year at the end of the year. You don't want to be like, if I said to you, like, what'd you do in 2021? Like, you should be able to be like, oh, I launched my podcast, or I quit my job, or like something. Like, what are we all working for if there's nothing to show for it?
Yeah.
So one big year defining thing. Last year for me, I rode my bike across America, like big. But think of it this way. If you're 35 or 36 and you live to be 86, 50 more years, you'll have 50-year defining things. That's a hell of a life that you've done versus I didn't schedule it. The second thing that I do every year, so that goes on my calendar first when I know what that is.
Yep.
This year, like rim to rim to rim, like your husband did, was something that I put on my calendar in that regard. The second thing is every other month, I try to take a little mini adventure. So, and it could be just instead of doing something that I normally wouldn't have done on a weekend. So instead of watching the Georgia football game, maybe I'll take my kids fishing. Maybe I'll visit my college roommates. Maybe I'll go to a lecture. But I want to have 6. And again, the reason there is you live 50 more years. That's 300 mini adventures you wouldn't have had. 50-year defining things and 300 mini adventures. Like, you're starting to shape an insane, like being 85 and be like, look what I did. Versus, man, I worked my ass off, man. So that's the reason. The third thing is I just create. We're all, the number one thing that we can do to have a better life is have winning habits, winning routines, winning mindset. Those 3 things. So I try to have good habits. I try to add every quarter or so a new winning habit, and that could be as simple as I'm never going to be late for a meeting. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to drink 100 ounces of water a day. I'm going to add a 10-minute a day meditation practice. It's probably a good idea. We're here. So that's how my calendar starts to fill out, and then I work around it.
So basically it's like immediately you throw this huge thing on the wall, you look at it so it becomes visual, and then it's color-coded so you make sure you can see really easily, oh man, I thought I had all these adventures, but they're actually not on there.
Well, yeah, and again, like, I want my calendar to be fun. I want it to be, like light it up. Yeah. It's a work in progress throughout the year. I'm adding to it as things, speeches and travel, I keep adding to it. But making it color-coded, when I look at it, I think in pictures. Most of us do. Yep. So when I see it, I'm like, wow, I have a lot of exciting travel coming up. Versus like, I got to scroll through my phone to do that. It's not the same.
That is true. Yeah, you know what else is interesting with that is then you start to think about it as exciting as opposed to, sometimes I look at my calendar and I get overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my God, I have so much I have to do as opposed to I get to do it. You have a kind of a ridiculous mindset. Like when I see all the things, you just got back from Running Man, which you put on, which is like what, a couple hundred people in sort of a remote location. We wanted to come, but I had something else going on. Plus I suck at running. So small side note. And you have like, is that the same one? You have like 100 saunas and or is that a different
Yeah, we
event?
had 1,000 people there.
Okay.
It's a 3-day like wellness festival in the middle of Georgia.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the Woodstock of wellness. There's speakers and breakout sessions and music and bands and sauna. We built the world's biggest sauna. It's almost 5,000 square feet. We get a couple hundred people in it with a DJ, and we have yoga sessions. So I need things. I work hard, and I have kids, and I have a wife, and like that whole work-life balance thing. I need things that I'm excited for on my calendar. It makes me show up better at work. It makes me show up better as a dad, as a husband. If I know, like, look, I can work my ass off for the next 90 days, but then I'm taking a trip to Florida, or I have a guy's trip that I'm doing. It helps me.
Somebody was telling me the other day, it was about content. And they were like, there's so many young people today that want to be quote unquote famous, that want to create really cool things on the internet, but they haven't actually lived much life. And so when you haven't lived much life, there's not that much to create about.
Right.
And they're like, if you want to create incredible content, live an incredible life. And it doesn't have to be like a fancy one. I mean, half the time you have an event at your house where you just run up and down a hill like 3 bajillion times, and it's called Hell on a Hill, right?
Yeah, I do. To your point, I was just at Running Man. I was talking to my friend's son, and I asked him. He's in his mid-20s now, maybe even a little older. And I said, "What are you doing now?" And he goes, "Oh," he like lights up. He's like, "Oh, I have the dream job," and I'm thinking like, "Whoa," I'm like, what do you do? He's like, I work the chairlift at the local ski resort in Colorado. And I was like, oh. He's like, no, you don't understand, man. It's unbelievable. He's like, I get to meet everybody there. I get to ski an hour a day. We get together as a group after. So like, to him, he has the dream job. He runs the chairlift at the local ski resort, which is amazing. Like, people think you have to be the CEO of a mega company or climb Mount Everest to have these incredible lives. Like, no. You have to be around people you love, doing things you love to do, and feel accomplished. If you do those 3 things, you've really checked all the boxes, and he did. And he's doing that right now. It was really like kind of eye-opening for me. Like when he said it, I was like, you can learn something from everybody, man. Not you don't have to be famous. You don't have to be an influencer. There's lessons everywhere. I'll give you an example. My dad died 2 years ago, and I woke up on the anniversary of his death, and I got a text from a girl, Maureen, who I'm friends with, but not like, we don't go to dinner. We're friends, but we're not like super close. And she just wrote, I know it's a 2-year anniversary of your dad's death. She wrote me this really nice note. I have 10,000 plus people in my contacts. She was the only text that I got. Wow. And so I called her and I asked her about it. I was like, Maureen, how'd you remember that? She's like, oh, I have a list of monumental events, good and bad, of people in my life on by month, and the days of those anniversaries, I just reach out to them. I'm like, that's brilliant, because I'll never forget that. So I call that Mo's rule, and I have rules that I've named after Maureen's not even on Instagram. I have rules that I've named after people in my life that have like given me these lessons that now I'm doing that, and I have so many of those.
Whoa. Well, the other thing that's interesting about you is you're not like so many people who have a lot of money. There's not a lot of pretense there. You throw a ton of events, and it doesn't seem like the thing that really makes you happy has a lot of zeros associated with it. Maybe flying nicely one way or another?
I mean, flying definitely is amazing, and that's a huge perk. I remember Warren Buffett saying that's like the one thing he'll never get rid of is his private jet. Yeah, I mean, like, I still have very much so like an underdog mentality. I still feel like, I spent so many years sleeping on couches, so many years hustling, so many doors in my face, so much rejection, trying to make payroll, not being able to. I've been like, my whole 20s was like that. I spent 20 years in that environment, and it's never left me. So I still, I've been to restaurants so many times where like just freaking out when I hand them my credit card that it's not going to work, that I'm still traumatized, but I still get that to this day.
Do you really? All
the time. Every time I pull out a credit card, I'm like, oh my God, is this going to work? But now I'm like, if it doesn't work, it's not really a big deal because, but yeah. And so that never left me. And I think Sarah, she was so mission driven always about making products that women love.
So you don't end up feeling rich even when you have that amount of dollars.
My life is exactly the same. I still like to run. I like to take saunas. I love to go to I still coach my kids. I don't miss anything. My friends are the same. Like, everything's the same. It's just bigger. Like the swimming pool. I have a swimming pool now. I have the house is bigger. But the problems are the same.
Yeah.
The problems are the same.
Don't the problems get bigger in some ways?
It depends on what your relationship with money is. So a lot of people have, when you think of relationships, you think of them in terms of like people. What's your relationship with your husband or your parents or whatever? But people don't think of their relationship with time and with money. So you have to have, and that's really important. So like Sarah always says, money's fun to make, money's fun to spend, and money's fun to give it away. And the best thing about it is you get to treat the people you love the most to the things that you love to do and do it with them. And that's really been the best gift about it. The other great thing is that it's opened up it's given us an opportunity to meet so many cool people that we wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
And it makes everything easier. But kids still have glitches, still have social concerns, still have you still have to stay healthy. So yeah.
But you know what's interesting about you is you have a lot of examples of you meeting famous people, celebrities, when you were young and didn't have much of anything.
Right.
So like for somebody who's young listening to this and thinking, yeah, it must be nice, they're at this level, he's done all this stuff. What would you tell somebody who's young and wants to work for, learn from a successful person? And maybe when did you do that?
Well, now you can have virtual mentors. You can get mentored by anybody virtually just by watching them. But I was a big observer when I was sleeping on my friend's couch in Burbank, California. I slept on 18 different friends' couches that put me up. I wasn't like homeless, but I got out of college. My parents, I was on my own, and my friends were putting me up. I'm trying to figure it out for 2 years. I'm couch to couch to couch. I'm in Burbank. We go to the Beverly Hills Hotel for lunch. And I'm looking around, and there's the head of Warner Brothers, movie division, and the head of the biggest advertising agency, and this actor, and this athlete. And I'm like, you don't have to have a hotel room to go to lunch here. You could just get a salad and an iced tea for $18, and I could sit here for 3 hours, and that became my office. So I would leave the couch, put on a shirt like this, drive to the Beverly Hills Hotel, eat a salad a couple of days a week, almost every day, and I would observe. I would be like, how do people greet each other? I wasn't taking notes, but I was very observant. And I was also getting my face out there. I was, hey, I saw you here last week, but tell me, I was just starting conversations. And it trained me because my dad owned the plumbing supply house. We didn't talk about money. We didn't talk about business. I had no training. I had to observe people that were, so that put me in the room. I was proximity. I was in the room. And then when we had Marquis Jet, which is my first second successful company, but the biggest, we flew 3,000 of the who's who of pop culture, entertainers, CEOs, whatever. I was 28, 29 years old when we started the company, and I was obsessed, Cody, with their habits. So I would ask them, and I became, I would go to the airport, greet them for a plane. It was my company. So I would ask them questions like, where do you love to where do you guys vacation? And if I was more comfortable and had a good enough relationship over time, what do you do with your money? What do you do when you get $8 million? No, seriously, what do you do with it? I had no clue. Yeah. So I would ask a lot of questions, and I got obsessed with their habits. What time do you guys, can I ask you a crazy question? What time do you guys get up? What time do you go to bed? What do you guys read newspapers? If you were me, what newspapers would you read? I was just asking questions, and then I would try some of the things they said. Some worked, some didn't. But it's interesting, in your 20s and 30s, for most people, you're going to make 5 to 10 times more money in your 40s and 50s than you will in your 20s and 30s, because you'll have more contacts. You'll be better at whatever it is you do. You'll be much better. You'll know what mistakes to avoid. And I think a lot of people now see people on the internet getting rich really quick. It takes time. First of all, I don't even know if they're getting rich. Yeah. They're showing that they're getting rich, or they're showing a picture in front of a plane, but who the hell knows what's going on? So that's another thing you have to be careful of. And that's, you can't, that's their story. Who knows if it's there's no one fact checking that. But in your 40s, you have all this, it's different. So, and it takes time. Like I was saying, when we had Zico coconut water, which we sold to Coke.
And how big was that company?
What was maybe close to 100 million when we sold it.
Holy crap. And that's
but we got it up there. We ramped it quick.
Biggest company after Marquis?
Marquis we did 5 billion in sales.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
But really small margins? What were margins on private jets, or was that pretty big?
The way that we started the business is, so we had no aviation experience, very little business experience, and not a lot of money. I think we raised $4 million from friends and family, which to start a jet company,
Not enough.
It doesn't make any sense. The way that we started out, we were NetJets was our parent company, was providing us with the airplanes, and they were carrying the paper, meaning we didn't have to like buy the planes or lease them. They were holding the paper on that stuff for us. So like when we had an order, we could pay them, and we were commissioning it we were commissioning, charging more for time on their plane.
So you basically arbitraged the rate between what NetJets would charge a customer.
We were drug dealers. We were buying a lot of time on the planes.
Yeah.
We were chopping up into smaller increments and charging more.
Love that.
And we were selling 25-hour increments in jet cards. So we were, we were
and
just
you were
marking
the first people to kind of think about doing it that way, right?
We were, yeah. We were doing
Before that, everybody thought, no, we have to have these long leases or it has to be individual. And you're like, wait a second, why can't we just cut it with some lactose powder or something?
I remember sitting with my partner and like our average sale was people were spending about $250,000 a year. They didn't have to, but like on average, a year with us on jet time. So we were just like, if we could get to 4,000 customers, we'll be doing $1 billion a year. And like we were just like, all right, how do we just like it's like sitting there like, how do we get to 4,000 customers? Well, let's hire 100 sales reps that could find 40 people each. That was basically like how we
commission only?
Yeah, commission.
Yeah, you were basically like find a bunch of young hustlers.
But they did it. Those 100 people were able to, we built up this customer list. So, but anyway, that was like, it feels like a lifetime ago.
So I talk a lot about business buying and I get a lot of questions about it. One of the most common questions is, where do you find a business to buy? The answer is sad because the worst deals are oversaturated marketplace sites, but the best deals are off-market or curated. Either way, finding a business to buy basically sucks, and I think it should suck less. So that's why we've built something for you guys, BizScout, a business buying marketplace full of only the best deals for both on and off-market. And BizScout is just built different, okay? We've got verified buyers, so the best sellers are actually interested in selling. Scout sites, aka at a glance, what's the quick analysis of this deal? Off-market data, so you can get all the info you need to direct outreach efficiently. Embedded lending, so you can get your financing for the business right where you buy it. BizScout is going to change the face of Main Street buying and selling. Probably not immediately. We have a lot more work to do, but I want you guys to be part of it, to be part of the buyers and builders in this next round. So you guys are one of the first to hear. Go to bizscout.com and check it out. Was 50 Cent your intern?
Yes.
What is that story?
So I was managing Run DMC. In the mid-90s, early 90s. And Jam Master Jay, the DJ for Run DMC,
I remember
who was killed.
Yeah.
He came in to my office and he's like, I'm working with this kid. He's a boxer. He wants to be a rapper. And he wants business experience. He goes, but he's really good at writing songs and stuff. I was writing songs for sports teams, like theme songs. He goes, he'll come in the studio with you and help you out and do some stuff. But in exchange, he wants to like, this is insane now that I'm thinking about it. Like, this is fucking insane. But he wants business experience. So Curtis came in and he worked with me for like a year and a half and then he became 50 Cent.
That is wild. Did you know that he was like really talented when you met him? Were you immediately like, oh yeah, he's got it?
No.
He was just like a normal intern.
I'm like 23 years old. And this kid's coming in. I have no idea. I don't have a crystal ball. So you have to imagine. There's 1,000 people that are struggling artists or want to be artists, getting into rap. Everyone's trying to get a deal and this and that. And this kid comes in, he's got his boxing stuff. And I'm like thinking like, all right, cool. Like, it wasn't even on my radar, like, I'm like, just cool, come, yeah, you can. And then like looking back on it, he became like an international megastar. Here's the coolest thing. 8 years later, so he goes, there's no contact after, like, he goes and becomes this huge star. We're going crazy in the office. Like, we're like, holy fuck. That's Kurt, like, we're going nuts. And we're like, in a great way. Like, feel like we're all celebrating.
Yeah.
But I have no contact with him. And then we start Marquee Jet. every day I would get a list of who's flying on our planes, and I would look like who are the guests, who's on each flight. You know, maybe someone I know, maybe someone interesting. I see that he's a guest on one of our planes, so I called the pilot and I was like, "Can you leave a note for 50?" And said, 50. It's Jesse Itzler from Alphabet City. That was the name of our company that he worked at. You're never gonna believe this, but I own the company that you're flying on right now. And then the next day, he wrote into all of his contracts he would only fly with Marquis Jet. Is that insane?
That's amazing.
Amazing.
It's really fun to hear about celebrities. These days it's pretty easy to shit on them. But so many people I've met, of like all of the people that I would look up to in the world, are incredible humans. And part of me thinks that that might be more common than people think.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, there's a lot of, you get disappointed by people too in business. Yeah. I've been burned. I've been disappointed. I've been surprised. I've been stabbed. But in general, I agree with you. People in general want to help people and are good.
Yeah. If you go back to thinking about some of those instances, what do you think of, like, what was the biggest failure you've had in business?
I had a company called Sheets. They were these like oral dissolvable, so like a Listerine strip that you put on your tongue, but they were infused with caffeine. So it was like basically like drinking a Red Bull, but you put it on your tongue and it just goes right into your bloodstream and like you get this burst of energy. And at the time that we launched it, 5 Hour Energy was selling 10 million, 2.5 bottles of 5 Hour Energy a week. So the category was huge. And I'm like, we're gonna put them out of business. And I was so sure. We just sold Zico to Coke, Marquis had just gotten sold. Like, it was a lot of momentum for me. And I'm like, so we started this company called Sheets. I partnered with LeBron. I brought in a lot of celebrities, a lot of star power. I took in money from everybody I knew because I'm like, give me 10 grand. And I wanted to be a hero. You're going to get an island back. Like your 10 grand is going to turn into an island. And we're all going to be neighbors because of this strip. And I would back-to-back big wins, and I believed it. I was so sure. And we did a focus group. It didn't go well. And it didn't work. Because at the end of the day, it was super bitter. And your product has to be good. It doesn't matter who's endorsing it, who's in the commercial, how good the packaging is. People have to buy it. You have to give them a reason to buy it. And then they have to buy it again, and they have to tell friends. And they didn't buy it again, and they told friends, oh, I don't like the taste of it. So it didn't work. And the hardest part of that was I lost, money I lost the most money by far. But that hurts, still seeing people that gave you money, even though they could afford it, and everyone knows when you make an investment. And then people are like, well, why don't you just pay him back? That becomes weird. It's just weird. It was a tough time. I still think about it. Yeah. I literally still think about it. And it was, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for people to understand. If you have good moral character, losing somebody else's money is worse than losing your own. Like it is. I had an investment company for a long time, and we were in the cannabis space. And we invested in all of these startups in cannabis. And from like 2016 to 2016 to 2019, we killed it. We just made so much money. We 3x'd the fund, gave it all the investors back their money. Then the second fund that we did was right when COVID hit. And we before COVID, we thought we're going to raise all this stuff and they're going to legalize this shit. It's going to be legal. And it didn't end up getting legalized fast enough. And COVID hit. And I thought we were going under. I thought we were dead. And I remember Chris, my husband who you met at the time, we were just sitting in California and I was like, I don't think there's anything I can do. My grandmother's money is in this. Because same thing. I was like, we are legal weed dealers, money. And I was like, fuck, I'm going to lose everybody's money. And I didn't have enough to repay it. I mean, it was hundreds of millions of dollars. Thank God the government deemed it an essential service. In retrospect, it kept our companies afloat. In retrospect, I'm not even sure, though, that I'm happy I was in cannabis. I kind of think...
Right. The reason why you can't repay it is, first of all, that sets the precedent that anytime you raise money, what if I want to build a spaceship to the moon and I need to raise $1 bazillion? Well, the expectation is it didn't work. We're going to get our money back anyway.
Yep.
That you're going to pay everything back and every loss back. So that's one of the reasons. And there's a variety of reasons, but it's
also it can create fake guarantees, so it actually owes you up to lawsuits and
100%.
And then, so there's a lot of reasons why sometimes legally you're not even allowed to in the docs. And then who's to say what the actual cost is of money from an opportunity cost perspective? It's really messy. But I do think, if you're in the game, you've lost some money at some point, unfortunately.
But if you're taking in money, you have to understand it comes with responsibility. It comes with responsibility to report, to have some kind of, to have to be transparent. And it's just you lose your own money.
Yeah.
It's one thing, but you lose someone else's money, it's tough.
Well, what I think's interesting too is I think you're probably one of the best marketers out there pre-internet in such interesting ways. But to your point, you can't really market a non-incredible product. And you had a little formula there I really liked, which maybe was something like, if you want to create a really viral product, or if you want to create a product that continues to sell forever, they have to buy the product, they got to buy it again, and then they have to tell a friend. And a lot of times people leave that last part off. Is that your formula for creating winning products? Or how do you think about creating winning products? Because you got a pretty good hit ratio.
Yeah, I think things getting shared friend to friend is really important still, even with the internet.
Yeah.
Spanx exploded friend to friend, girlfriend to girlfriend. I think that's a really important element. PR is a really good way to get to reach a lot of people and get validated and I'm talking about when we were starting out, when there was no internet. If you could get an article, something placed about your company, that was a great bang for the buck. Now you can do it, by viral posts that are free, but without the internet, that was a good resource.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think people talking about it is really important.
How many $1 million businesses have you started that have hit 7 figures? Do you know?
Top line?
Yeah.
Oh, a lot.
What do you think's a lot?
I've never thought about. I don't know.
What about 8 figures?
How much is 8 figures?
That would be 10 million or more.
Oh, handful.
Yeah, and then 2 that were 9-figure.
North of 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. It's probably pretty rare air, right?
I've also had 20 companies that didn't work.
Interesting.
So it's I had a lot of balls in the air. But I've been doing it for 30 years.
Yeah.
But I'm tired now.
Are you?
Yeah.
I don't believe you're tired. You were just at a 3-day Running Man event you put on with the world's biggest sauna.
That's true. I'm tired, but the energy to start a company.
Brand new.
The energy, what it takes to start a company, the amount of your soul that you have to pour into it and the amount of caring at this point in my life would take away what I could give to my kids. I don't have that much caring in me, it's capped. And when I was single and young and in my 20s and 30s and even young kids in my 40s, it was different. But in your 50s, when you're 56, man, you look at time differently because you're like, shit, in 14 years, I'm 70. That's fucking nuts. That's freaking
crazy.
me out. So then I'm like, all right, if I have 14 years to be 70,
yeah.
Do I want to start another company for what? To have a bigger plate of brown rice? What? For what? Or do I want to take those 14 years and load them up with adventures with my friends and the people, my kids, and have an epic, decade and a half of, because I was just water skiing with my kids this summer, and there were no 70-year-olds water skiing on the lake.
That's true.
There were no 70-year-olds at Running Man. There were no 70-year-olds. It's as you get harder, as you get older, your window to do things
closes.
It closes. It starts to close.
Although, did you see Larry Ellison lately? 81. Have you seen this guy?
Larry Ellison's on a whole nother level.
He looks incredible.
Yeah, but
he
there's
looks
8
younger
billion
than
people in
us.
the world. There's 8 billion people in the world. There's one Larry Ellison.
We're not going to be him.
We might, but for the masses, It's hard.
It's a good way to think about it. So what do you think it takes to actually start a really successful business?
One is enthusiasm. I think you have to have a lot of enthusiasm around not just the product that you're selling, but also like the process of being an entrepreneur. You know, like it's that means a sacrifice. When you're friends at the bar for happy hour, you might have to go back to the office to do something like that. You have to be willing to do all that. You have to be customer focused and really think about, and product driven. The product has to be good. I think it has to be fun. You know, you want to make money, you want to have fun, and you want to have fun making money. And you have to be different. You know, Sarah always says entrepreneurs do one of two things. Either they create something brand new or they make something that exists better.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? Are you making something brand new, or are you taking something that's out there and just making it better? And I think it has to be authentic to you. I think how you stand out, everything is, all categories are so crowded right now. There's so many because it's so, the barrier to entry is so low right now.
Yeah.
So you have to stand out.
I read a fascinating statistic the other day that only 3% of Americans own a business, that of the 3% that own a business, only 10% will ever hit $1 million, that of those that hit 10 million, that's 0.4%. So 0.4% of the 3% ever get to 8 figures. And I thought that was
Hold on, I
fascinating.
gotta put that yeah.
You need your big ass calendar, but whiteboard edition.
I need the big ass calculator for that one.
Yeah, me
so
too.
what's the net? The net is?
The net is that most people underestimate how hard it is. That not, and how do you define hard? Because words mean things, and often we don't define things very well. So it's not just grit; it's actually just mathematically difficult. And so,
but think about this. My math might be wrong on this because I haven't been getting a lot of sleep. I think there's 18 million millionaires.
That sounds right.
In this country.
That sounds right.
So if you take, there's every year 4 million people born. So there's 80 million people under 20 years old. So that means that there's about 1 in 11 people are a millionaire that are like over 20.
Yeah,
I'm close. The math is something like that.
Okay. Check us on the internet. YouTube will tell us.
Something like that. But here's my point. If like 1 in 11 or something like that, people over 25 or 25 to 7, whatever, are millionaires.
Yeah.
And you lined up, 11 people in the room or 20 people, whatever the exact number is. I want to get the math right on it. That's like, doesn't make it sound like it's so hard.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I would think like, oh, 1 in 1,000 people are millionaires. But it sounds like 1 in 18 or so, like 1 in 11 or 1 in 18, something like, it's low.
Yeah.
As adults become millionaires. So it's like, I remember, by the way, I might get canceled. That math might be way off. No, but I remember the statistic. The bottom line is, what I'm trying to say is, it's not like a needle in a haystack.
No.
It's like to become a millionaire in this country, there's a path. I remember when I was 22 years old, Cody, I was playing basketball with a bunch of guys in New York City. And I met my first millionaire. I met my first millionaire. Now, there were millionaires in my town, probably, but like I didn't know that I was a kid. But like the first person that I knew, like my age, like someone was a millionaire, and I couldn't believe it because I was making like 12 grand,
Totally.
I'm like, I couldn't believe it. And then like 3 months later, I went away for Thanksgiving with 4 guys. We went to Jamaica. And I was talking to my friend Rich, who worked for a hedge fund on Wall Street. And he was like 23 years old or something. And I'm like, Rich, how's everything going? He's like, oh, it's great. It's got my holiday bonus. I'm like, oh, what was it? He goes, $3 million. I was like, you made $3 million? And then I was thinking to myself, I love Rich, but Rich couldn't tell me where the ocean is right now, and we're in it. Like, he made $3 million.
Yeah.
I'm going to make $3 million. Like, it made me realize, like, if fucking Rich can make $3 million, I can make $3 million. If so-and-so can run a marathon, I can run a marathon. If that guy can run 100 miles, why can't I run 100 miles? Like, once you see it, you know, we put so many limitations on ourselves.
I think you're right. Well, and on top of that, I mean, I bet most of those millionaires made their millions working with or for somebody else. I think also I'm a big proponent for you should always try to get some equity, try to get ownership in things. I love people buying small businesses. That's sort of my shtick because that's how I've made my money. So you always have like a bias. I'm like, I did it that way. Anybody could do it that way. But another thing that I try to give a lot of credence to is like, I bet you have minted so many millionaires. Not you, they did it for themselves too, but through creating these big, huge companies.
I have, but more importantly, I've had an army of people that worked for me as interns, as employees that have gone on to do insane things.
That's interesting.
You want the list?
Yeah.
So Kenny Austin, who worked with me, was one of my partners, but like at Marquis Jet, went on to create Tequila Avion. That sold. He created Proper 12 with Conor McGregor. That sold for over, for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
That was like $600
He
million.
created and partnered with The Rock on The Rock's tequila. It's worth north of $1 billion. I mean, just Jennifer Lopez, it's hit after hit. Adam Tishman, who was my intern, created Helix, this mattresses.
Oh, yeah.
Sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. Farrah Leff, who was my intern, she now runs Clutch, one of the biggest sports agencies, if not the biggest in the world. LeBron, and probably one of the most powerful women in sports. So, 50.
Why do you think that is? Why?
Because people are observant. Coaches are important. I still have coaches. I have a swim coach.
You had a Navy SEAL live with
coach.
you.
Because I wanted to get better at memorizing names. I wasn't great when I met people at remembering their names. So I brought a coach in to help me with that. I've had sales coaches. I've had coaches in so many areas of my life because I'm not great at everything. I want to go to people that are amazing at what they do. I live with Goggins. I lived on a monastery to get better at my spirituality. Like, investing in yourself to get better is so important. And so I think that, for if you're working at an organization, two things. One, I think you should make yourself irreplaceable. That's really important. Then you have the leverage. Like, you can't even fire me. I know everybody, every customer. I'm unfireable. Now you have some leverage, which I think is really important. And you should learn, network, and sponge as much, absorb, especially when you're young, as much as you can. Do everything. Learn everything. Gandhi said it best. He said, learn like you'll live forever, live like you'll die tomorrow. Oof. So you want to learn and keep getting better, in as many things as you can. Do you have a particular way that you lead people? What do you think it is? Is it either you select these people who are going to be high performers, and so you have a selection bias? Or do you have a particular leadership style that you think enables other people to become something bigger? I think that you have to put confidence in people. There are so many better. I honestly, Cody, I'm like back of the pack entrepreneur. I really am. There's so many amazing entrepreneurs. Like, I don't even put myself, that's not my strong suit. It's not.
Interesting.
It's not. I've had wins. I've had great partners. I've had good ideas, right time, right place. Like, a lot of things happened. But there's so many. I still go to so many entrepreneurs for advice. But I am good at giving people confidence and belief. And that's really important, because if you have to believe in the end of your story. Like, if you're single, you have to believe he or she's out there. If you're going for a job interview, you have to believe, like, I'm the one that's going to get this job. If you're applying to a college, you have to believe, like, oh, the acceptance rate is 1 in 80. I'm that one. I'm that one. You have to have, like, insane conviction. And I'm really good at breathing conviction into people.
Oh, that's so good. Do you breathe it into yourself? And if so, how?
Self-talk.
Are you, like, in the mirror going, Jesse?
No, but just like, you got this, and like, I have really good self-talk. There's not a lot of I can't that comes out of my kids' mouths or my mouths, or Sarah and I are really particular about how our family speaks.
What would that look like? Like, so if you're trying to raise children who believe in themselves like that, what does that look like? What are examples?
Well, first of all, we praise the effort, not the result. You want to praise the effort to get your kids to want to put max effort in. Let them experience disappointment, and then correct them. Oh, Dad, I can't jump off this diving board. Like, well, if you say you can't, you're never going to do it. So you have to reframe it, tweak it. But it's true of everything. That the words that you speak are really important.
Yeah, my husband always says words mean things, and he means that when we talk about stuff between each other. Like, it's really important that we both think about what we say, and then we understand what the word means to each other, because oftentimes you don't even realize that.
It's true. I was doing like a math problem with my daughter. We were going through her math homework, and like she got the first 5, and then we got the math to question 6, and she's like, "Oh, Dad, this is hard. We'll skip that one. Let's go to the next one." And like I think most of my childhood, maybe, my parents wanted to make things as good as they. Yeah, let's skip it. We don't skip things. Like, you get a chance to like skip. Coming up with the packaging for this widget company is really hard. Let's skip the packaging. Like, no, my daughter's name is Tepper. Tep, let's sit here and figure this out before we go to question 8. Let's stay on 7. I know it's hard, but it's on the paper. It was assigned to us. It's in front of us, so we're gonna have to figure this out. We're not skipping it and going to 8. I didn't say it in that tone. But those kind of lessons were like, I think are important.
Do you talk like that between Sarah and yourself? Like, when it comes to partnership, do you help your partner speak that way to each other? And if so, how do you do that in a relationship? Or do you both come fully baked?
Every partner is so different. So, I'm a support system for my wife, and she's a support system for me. But my needs are more ego-based. Like, I need to be told, like, you did a great job, Jesse. Like, you cleaned the dishes, and like, oh, I didn't just clean the dishes. The dishes are fucking spotless. Like, I need to be, can you say that, Jesse, the dishes are spotless? You're the best dishwasher in the family. I need that.
Yours is words of affirmation.
Right. So I need affirmation. And
okay.
She's completely different.
What does she need?
She needs more, she needs to be heard. She needs to be heard.
Yeah.
So I need to be a bit more of a listener. And then
periods.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Shut up.
Interesting.
We were married for 18 years, so now I know.
Now you've got it down. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So what was it like in the beginning? Like, I know every relationship.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
We were in the steam. I went in the steam room with my friends, and then Sarah went in there, and she couldn't figure out how to shut the steam off. Uh-huh. So she left the door open, and all the steam flew. It was all over the house. Like, it was like our steam room was like it's like massively powerful. It's like whoosh, it's blowing steam. I'm like upstairs. I was like, the fuck is steaming in here? So I go down through the steam, and Sarah's in there like la-di-da. I'm like, sweetie, shut the door. And she's like, I can't. She's like, I don't know how to shut the fucking steam. Like, she was pissed. She's like, and I'm trying to shut it off, and I can't shut it off, and its steam is going everywhere, and we're like arguing over it. And then, I was pissed at her and how she handled it. And she was yelling at me, and I'm yelling at her. And then, like, we went on our merry way, and then I called her, and I'm like, I'm not mad at you. I'm not even mad at you. Are you mad at me? She's like, I was mad at you, but I'm not mad at you now. So, like, you have to, in relationships, it's okay to get mad, but we're married. So I'm not going to stay mad at her that she left the door open and the whole house has mold in it now.
I'm not upset at all.
I'm not mad at her. I'm not even thinking about it a day later.
Quick FYI, we've got
just a few months before my first ever book is out in the world. If you want to pre-order it for yourself or anyone you love, you can do that in the link in the show notes, or you can search it online. It's called Main Street Millionaire. You'll love it. I think it'll make you a lot of money, and I hope you guys pre-order it. Chris and I have been married for 4 years, together for 7, but we've known each other since we were 12. And I was married before, so I fucked it up once. And it's like very big on my list of do not fuck this up again. And I think one of the things that I love talking to people about who've been married for a while and have kids is like the real of it. Because, you know, we have a therapist. That was one of my things, like with my first marriage. I tried to make that happen and he wasn't
I like
really
the
into
word coach. You have a coach.
Yeah, exactly. We have a coach. Although our coach is doing this thing lately that I hate. I don't know if yours have ever done this. She's like, and I want you to stop. And I want you to think about where do you feel it in your body?
That's a therapist.
Oh, God. I about died last week. I'm like, and especially Chris, former Navy SEAL, you can only imagine what his face looks like. And then she says, I'm sorry, I won't say her name because she's great in many ways. But then she says, I know you feel hot in your body. You feel heat. I want you to ask the heat what it wants to tell you. I was like, I have to leave. I have to leave this Zoom call. And that was not very helpful for me.
I'd have a hard time in that room.
No.
I'd have a hard time.
So what kind of coach do you guys, have you ever used in your marriage? Have you ever?
We have on very rare occasions
Interesting.
on more specific topics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, hey, we're not communicating well here, so we want to communicate better?
Yeah, like, or we disagree on this.
Yeah.
On, you know, on this particular thing, let's go to a specialist. So for us, just to be candid, it was like food. You know, like I was a vegan, vegetarian. I eat super clean. Sarah eats a whole different lifestyle. The way she eats, which just doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother me one bit. But now we have 4 kids. So how do we want to feed and raise our kids when it comes to food?
Yeah.
And early on in the relationship, it was I was all the way over here and she was all the way over here, and that created a lot of you know, an uncomfortable environment, because guess what? You have to eat. We're eating 3 times a day. So we're having 1,000 meals, and, you know, they're eating one way, or I want them to eat one way and Sarah wants them to eat another. So we had to right size that. But you have to get in front of the problems. It's like crisis management 101 is you get in front of the problems. You know, you can't let a small problem become a bigger problem. It doesn't magically disappear. Mm-hmm. So
what does that look like to get in front of a problem?
You have to confront it and be like and be solution driven rather than just ignore it. You know, humans, I'm non-confrontational. So for most things I'm like, it's not a big deal. I don't know, but it doesn't go away. Right. Unless you address it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you guys met later on in life, right?
Yeah. We got married, I was 40. Sarah was 37. And
so what I find interesting, obviously young people today are getting married later than ever, to a lesser degree than ever before. And I found when Chris and I came together that sometimes when 2 humans are so fully baked, there's hard parts about that. Because I'm like, no, I'm like a full adult human. I have operated like this for 31 years.
Right.
I'm pretty good.
Right.
Were there ways that you came together to compromise that you think were helpful and necessary? Because you, I imagine, are a strong personality. She, imagine, is a strong personality. And you're going to have to figure out how to compromise somehow.
Yeah. The one thing is we were very aligned. We're very different.
Yeah.
Very different in certain regards. But the one thing that we are very aligned on is values. And I think that's like super important. Before you get married, you don't talk about like food. Do you want your kids to be raised religious? Do you want your kids to go away to summer camp when they get older, if you can afford that? Do you want to, you know, there's a lot of things that we didn't discuss, like, ever. And then, like, you have children and you're like, wow, we never even went over, like, how do you want to discipline the kids? Do you want to spank the kids? Not spank the kids. Do you want to yell at them? Not. What's our discipline protocol? Yeah. Like, we didn't go over any of that stuff. So you don't have a choice. You have to get aligned on that stuff.
What do you think is important for like a couple coming
together?
Values
is really important. Like,
and how do you define values? Is it your political party? Is it your religion?
No, just like how you treat people and what matters, what doesn't matter. You know, values more like or the hierarchy of what's important and what's not important, values in family and traditions, in taking care of your parents, like just core values is really important.
Yeah, I read a study the other day that increasingly young people, specifically women, which is interesting, but young people today don't want to marry or date somebody of the opposite political party, which I think is such a mistake because my parents were both, one of each. And I do think in many ways we're forgetting this opposite attracts thing. I was hanging out with a guy who I really admire a lot and have become buddies with, Sean Rad, who started Tinder. And it was interesting. He was saying that one of the byproducts of Tinder is that increasingly in Tinder you can determine exactly what you want in a human.
Right.
And so because of that, you won't ever even get served what you might need. You only get served what you think you want. And a lot of us don't even know what we want.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting because I find if you and Sarah are really different, Chris and I are really different, I'm not sure we ever would have gotten matched on an app because
aren't there a lot of studies about like marriages that last longest are, I remember reading this, I could be wrong, but I remember reading that opposite more than, similar.
That's what they say. Yeah. It's more of two parts fitting together.
Yeah.
And you guys have some really cool stuff you seem to do as a family that I've just seen on social. Like, I remember seeing a sign that you have for all the things you want on your birthday and all the things Sarah wants on her birthday. What's the deal with that?
Father's Day and Mother's Day.
Oh, that's what it is.
Father's Day and Mother's Day.
Yeah.
She gets to make a list of how she wants her special day to be. And it was like she wants to talk for an hour. It was all the Sarah things. And then mine was like all the Jesse things on Father's Day. Like I want to eat fruit, I want to run, I want to take a sauna. I made a whole list. So our lists were so different. They were so different.
But do you find some joy in coming together on the day and you're
Love
like,
it.
I want to listen.
Of
Ready,
course.
go.
Of course. And like, listen, the other thing about marriage is I found that you have to let your partner be who they are, and like if Sarah loves to eat French fries and do that, do it. Like if I took that away from her, she would resent me. So she lets me do the things I love to do, and I let her do the things she loves to do, and we come together on the values and the stuff that that we do together.
Yeah, what that was one of the best things Chris.
Sarah's super fun, by the way.
I bet
like,
she
I'm married
is. She
to
looks
someone
fun.
Like, it's not hard. I mean, it's she's so fun. She's funny. She's a great mom. She's a great business person. She gives great advice. She cares. I've lost my dad, my sister, and my mom in the last 2 years. So having someone there, is really important. And she was super supportive. And those are the things that, to me, are really important for what I need in a marriage. And I like to have fun. Like you want your house to be a place of fun and.
I get that
so
vibe
we checked
from you.
that. Yeah, we checked that box.
Yeah, but I do like this idea of Chris always, like when we first started out, when you start dating somebody and, they want you to hang out with all their friends and their family and go do all these activities. In the beginning, I thought, yeah, like that's what you're supposed to do. You have to come do all this stuff that my family wants to do, that I want to do because we're now in a relationship. And Chris actually taught me a lot about, do you? Like, what is need? Like, what is that word? Mm-hmm. And at first it bothered me. I was like, oh, I want them all to like you and I want them to do whatever. And he's like, do I? I don't care. So like, do you care? Because then maybe we could do something.
I think every marriage, listen, I'm not a marriage expert at all. I've only been married once.
Next book.
I don't even know if I'm good at it. I really don't even know if I'm good at it. You have to interview Sarah. I don't even know. I'm doing the best that I can do, but I don't even know how good I am. I'm probably like just 8. But every marriage is different. Couples have different needs, circumstances are different. I don't think it's like a one size fits all at all. You do what works for you, and for your family and for your family unit. And that's based on years of family traditions. It's based on the personalities that are married. And don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Like, what works for you guys? Do you like watching Netflix every night? And that's fine. You have to do what works for the unit.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes, though, it's hard when you haven't had a role model. Like your kids, I think will probably be quite lucky to see the two of you and how you are in a marriage together and get to take what they like and what they don't. And I think Chris's dad always said it best, or Chris always says it best to his mom and dad. He says, thanks for fucking me up enough to be a Navy SEAL, but not to be a stripper. And
That's good.
I kind of like that, because we're all going to do that to our kids,
Yeah.
and they're going to resent something, I'm sure. But I do think it's nice that you guys share some of this stuff, because when I was a kid, like, this is the class I wish we would have had. It's my most precious thing is being married to Chris. Like, I feel very lucky about that. But I didn't really know what I was doing for a long time. And I think I was a nightmare sometimes. So I think it's cool that you share a bunch of this stuff on the internet. And you do it very much. You don't have a lot of, I do this, so you should do that in your vocabulary that I've ever noticed.
No. I mean, because I don't think I'm in a position to tell people that. I can tell people what works for me and show them what I do, and they can choose to do that or not. But yeah, you got to be careful, man. Like, when you give advice to people, you know, like, you got it comes with like I said, it comes with a lot of responsibility. We're both in a space where, in personal development or whatever you want to call it, and you got to be careful.
Yeah.
People like listening, and like, you got to give them. So I try to just be like, this is what I did and this is what I'm doing, and show, don't tell. It's like with my kids, I'm not telling them, I'm their dad, I'm not their coach. So I have to show them. You know, if I go outside and it's pouring rain out at 7 a.m. and my kids say, and I come in, I'm like, oh, I don't care about the rain. I run every day. It doesn't matter. I don't even look at the weather. I'm going no matter what. So why would I look at the weather? Then they're now have that same thing, like, you know, like, oh, it's freezing. My kids don't care. It has no impact on them because they see it from me all the time. Cold plunging, sauna, running, like they see it.
So one of my friends said entrepreneurship is a trauma response.
Yeah.
Do you think that's true?
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it for you?
I just started so early. Like, I didn't have a choice. You know, like, I didn't want to work for anybody. I just always wanted to, like, I had 3 goals. I wanted to be able to, I said to myself, if I could work like 50 weeks a year on my own stuff, but make enough money that I could take a 2-week trip, it's worth it. I'm like, if I could take a 2-week trip, are you kidding? So that was like one of the goals that I had. The second goal is I wanted to make enough money that I could have a swimming pool. I'm like, if I could have I don't have to go to a public swimming pool. I could go in my own pool, would be the coolest thing. And then I want to be able to grow my own fruit. Those were my business goals. And then when I had those, I crossed them off, and I made new goals. And I've always been doing that. I've always been like, kind of, after I hit the goals, making new goals. And the bar kept going higher and higher.
That's so interesting, because I think a lot of times when people set goals, they set a really big first one.
Which is fine. Mine weren't less about goals and more about like a wish list. Like, I think it's important that people have like if I gave you $10 million tomorrow, or anyone listening, are you crystal clear on what you would do with that money? Like, what would you do? You should, like, what are you working for? Like, you should have like an idea of like, well, what do you want? I had a friend of mine that was like going through a tough time, and I said to him, I was like, Brian, man, if I wired you $10 million, what would you do? He's like, oh, I would move to California tomorrow. And I'm like, that's great. Why? He's like, oh, I always want to live in California. And he's like in his mid-50s. I'm like, Brian, no one's wiring you $10 million. If you want to go to California, figure out a way to go move to California. I think like a lot of people, like a lot of the things that we want to do, we could probably do now.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. I want to close out with a few little rapid fire questions, which are, what do you think the secret is to staying in love while running multiple businesses? These are questions people asked from the group.
Really?
Yeah. What do you think the secret is to staying in love?
I assure you that did not come from a man.
It's probably a woman.
So read it to me again.
What is the secret to staying in love while running businesses?
Just like my wife has a hashtag, just love him, just love her. You have to just let your partner be who they are, and, you know, do what they like to do. You can't, otherwise it creates resentment. But communication is really important. You know, not like just transactional communication, like, hey, Chris, did you take out the garbage? but more like, Chris, how you feeling today, man? Like, what's going on? You know, I think is really important.
What have you spent the most money on ever that made you the happiest?
These are great questions. I just bought a farm, but up until that point, and that made me really happy because that, as the goals got bigger, the wish list, that was on my wish list. And I bought an RV. Those two things made me insanely happy because they're like great memory makers for my family. But up until then, I really didn't spend money on anything. I don't have a lot of wants. I like bikes, so I like collect bikes. I love buying bicycles and saunas. I have a great bike and sauna collection. I don't have any fancy art, no fancy watches.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't really have a lot of. I'm pretty simple.
Are you going to put like some goats and horses and stuff?
Yeah, we got goats, chickens. Yeah, I love goats.
Interesting. You're going to get the funny chickens with like the hair and the hairy feet.
I'm
Have you seen
getting
those?
all of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, Tim Kennedy, is like the hardest man ever. Do you know Tim?
I think I do.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's a current, God, I always mess this up, either an Army Ranger or a Green Beret, but he wrote the book, Scars and Stripes.
Okay.
Anyway, he's based here. He's an incredible human. But he's like obsessed with chickens. He's like the most murdery man that is obsessed with protecting his little flock.
Stop it.
Yeah, it's the cutest thing ever.
I love that.
Yeah, so he sends me chicken videos all the time. Incredible thing. Okay, this one was interesting. How do you give a speech to get a standing ovation based on our conversation before?
I think it's really important. The way I approach it is I want to make people laugh. I want to leave people inspired and give them actionable takeaways to make something better. And I want to make them cry. When I say that, I mean like I want to make them emotional is a better way to say it than make them cry. I'm not trying to make people cry. It's not. That came out the wrong way. Emotional. Like there has to be a good speech has a big emotional closing and gives people actionable takeaways and entertains them. Those are the three things that I think are the most important things. Yeah. You want to entertain, inspire, give them takeaways, and have a big emotional close.
Do you have a good joke in it?
Humor is really important too, but I tell a lot of stories and just funny. Yeah, stories are usually funny.
Yeah. And you have a DJ that's with you on stage.
When I write a speech, I want to make sure that there's enough humor throughout it because humor and stories are going to keep the audience engaged.
Yeah. I also read a study they make you remember things better, like 30% better 100%. Recollection.
But Cody, the most important thing is to tell stories in a speech that only you can tell. Yeah. So if I say, hey, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. 1 million people can say that. But if I say, I rode my bike across the United States of America, and let me tell you what I learned about being uncomfortable from it. It's unique to me. It's a story that only I can tell. And that is really important in giving talks.
Yeah, you seem like a story collector.
Yeah, I am.
And your life is kind of a version of that. This one was interesting. Have you ever done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I love to. I haven't. I took Krav Maga, but I never did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
So Krav Maga is like the Israeli martial art. It's like
because you can learn. What's good about Krav Maga is you can learn the basics and the foundations in like 30 hours.
Whoa.
As opposed to, but yeah, I would love to do that. I haven't done it yet.
We have a big audience of people that are obsessed with BJJ, and they ask this question a lot, which I think is funny. And then I think the last one is, if you were chatting with somebody who is young Jesse today, world's a lot different, but what would you leave them with?
God, Cody, Jesus, these are these are really good questions. And the way you said it, what would you leave them with? Like you said it
Don't fuck it up, is what I'm saying
exactly.
Here. You get one shot.
I just think, this is an obvious answer, but we have one life. For me, I don't want to be 85, 90 years old and look back on my journey and be like, I was the 80% version of myself. I don't want to be, no one wants to be the 80% version of themselves. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important to live a life that prevents that, that you're excited about, you're writing, you're the author of your story and that you're writing a really good story that you're proud of. I'll leave you with this story. So my parents passed away. When your parents pass away, my parents lived in a house. My brother and my sister and I decided to sell my parents' house. Like, we weren't going to keep it. So what happens is someone comes in, like, we sell the house, but now we have to get rid of all the 90 years of possessions that are in the house, the silverware, the mirror that's on the wall. Everything has to go so that the new owner comes into a house with nothing in it. So the estate people come and they start, pricing out the couch. We'll give you this for the couch. We'll put this in an auction. We'll give this. We'll donate this. They go through everything. And then the guy comes and he goes through the pictures and we'll give you $500 for this. This goes here. We'll sell this. And then the book guy comes. And we have my mom had 1,000, so many books. And he's going through the book one by one, writing how much they're worth and what they're going to do with the books. And then a couple of hours in, he hands my brother a book. And he says, you need to see this. So my brother opens it up. It's not a book. It's a hollow carved out book with a safe in it, like out of a Mission Impossible James Bond movie. So he opens it up. It's hollow. There's some old credit cards from 20 or 30 years ago that expired. And there's a note. And the note says, if anything happens to me, here's a combination to the safe. Here's an address. You're the only one that has this combination. So my brother calls me up. He's like, we have a situation. He's like, maybe mom left us Apple stock. I don't know what, like at $2. And then I said, what's the address on the note? So he gives me the address. I'm like, that's my house in Connecticut. I wrote that note to mom 25 years ago when I bought this house and I had some valuable stuff in the safe in case something happened to me. So that week happened to be Labor Day weekend. So I was at the house in Connecticut. So I went down to the safe. I opened it up. And in the safe, this is a true story. In the safe was a book. And the book was an autobiography that my grandfather wrote in 1974. And so I read the book, 54 pages. And we could do a whole other podcast episode on it. But he really left all these lessons through his autobiography for his kids, his grandkids, and generations. And my parents are gone, my grandfather's gone, but the stories live on forever. And the stories that we create. You just went through a whole hour. I don't even know how long we've been. We could have been here 15 minutes or 2 hours. I have no idea.
3 years.
But all the stories that we went through. Oh, the Marquis Jet running in the costume and the Zico costume, and the thing with Sarah. All these little. They're just stories that we've collected. They're nothing more than. It's all going to go away. Everything's going away. But your legacy is the stories that you create, that you pass down to your friends, family, kids, or the book that you leave in the safe. And that is what I would say. At the end of the day, what is that book going to look like for you in the safe? What are the stories that are going to be in there? And how do you write the best ones? And it's not going to be the Zoom calls. It's not going to be that. It's going to be what's on your calendar in yellow that you're excited about, that you look back and be like, yeah, Chris did rim to rim to rim. If you ask him, Chris, name 10 things you did in 2024, he probably couldn't. What'd you do in January? I have no fucking idea. But he'll never forget rim to rim to rim.
You're so right. So are you going to write a book like that for your kids?
For sure. But I'm also, I am a story, I am so deeply invested in spending my money on experiences. Mm-hmm. I am so deeply invested. I'm going on a sauna tour of Finland with 10 friends in February. I rode my bike across America with 10 friends last year. I'm going on trips with my family. I got scuba certified with my son. I've been to Africa and Fiji all with my family over the last 6 months, and New Zealand. Because that's what I want. Yeah, that's everything. Ugh. Now, easy for me to say, right? I have the ability to do it and I can afford to do it. But even when I was 21 sleeping on couches, I was going to Coney Island's Polar Plunge, which was free. I was going to free stuff in New York City. I was going to the rallies. I was going to this. I was out there. I wasn't sitting on the couch watching the Kardashians.
No, you
I
were
was out
14
doing
you were in
it, man.
DC
Yeah.
breakdancing.
Yeah,
Which actually made
nothing
you
wrong with the Kardashians, but I wasn't doing that.
No, I think you're right. I remember I threw my first protest when I was 15. And
I want to throw up. What'd you protest?
yeah, you haven't thrown a protest yet? Get
No.
it together. On the bucket list, 2025.
Will you come?
I'm in. I will hold the sign. I'll make the signs. I protested. I was on student government, and the dean of the school, or the principal, that's what you called it back then. The principal wanted to get rid of half of our, what's that called, where you go in between classes, like the time, not recess, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I said, that's ridiculous. We need that time. We sit in these chairs all day. I need to be connecting with people. We have things to do. And so we threw a protest and invited the news sources. But it's funny to look back in retrospect on these little signs. Yeah. But you know what? Cost me nothing. I'll remember it forever. And I think that's a beautiful thing for people to realize today. It's not just about the bank account that you have at some point. It's this story bank that you have.
Right. It's true.
Jesse, you're the man. Thank you for
Cody,
being here.
thanks for having me, man.
It's so good. That story. Obviously more inspiration than, I don't know, I got in a 4-year college degree. So if you also are getting inspired to do better, be better, hit that subscribe button, share this video, share the audio. Let's get more people into this wild world where we actually believe you can do things as opposed to have to be told what to do every second of every day. I hope you guys liked this podcast. Let me know in the comments. On YouTube, we read every single one. I read every review you guys leave. So please comment or leave a review so I can hear what you liked about this podcast or not, and we keep making it better for you.
Whenever the government says, I'm from the government and I'm here to help, they're typically not. And I am talking about red, white, blue, purple, whatever the color they show up as. The only good government is a one that is at a distance, allowing you to be able to continue to do the things you need to do on a daily basis, as opposed to mandating you do one thing or another. Quick FYI, before we get too much into it, we've got just a few months before my first ever book is out in the world. If you want to pre-order it for yourself or anyone you love, you can do that in the link in the show notes, or you can search it online. It's called Main Street Millionaire. You'll love it. I think it'll make you a lot of money, and I hope you guys pre-order it. Hello, and welcome back to all those who put in the work. I'm Codie Sanchez, and this is the Big Deal podcast. Okay, this segment's a little bit different and interesting, I hope, for you guys. We're going to call this one something along the lines of current events. If you want to tell us what you think we should name this podcast, drop it in the links. Come up with a catchy name for us. We've got our interview podcasts, we've got our Moneymaker podcast series, and now we got this one where we talk to you about what's happening in the world. Let me preface it with this. I think we have to obsess a little bit for just a small amount of time on what's happening with the government right now around us. Let me tell you why. I used to run a business in Latin America at a company called First Trust. We grew it to over $1 billion in assets under management. We were one of the fastest growing international businesses in Latin America. And before I left that company to go start my own, I watched what happens when we let the government get in the way of business. In fact, when I was in Latin America running our business was the same time a new president came on board in a country called Argentina, and that president's name was Cristina Fernandez. Cristina Fernandez came into an Argentina that was just starting to write its way out of formerly socialist policies. And Cristina Fernandez came in, and over the span of 3 to 6 months, she nationalized just about every business. She kicked people out of the country like me, who had financial companies where we were helping people who knew that the Argentinian dollar there at the time was really volatile. So even now, if you go to Argentina, you don't go to a bank to exchange your currency, you go to the black market because you get a much better rate, and oftentimes they run out of dollars in the banks in Argentina. And that is because they've had really poor management by the government. So my business was all around Latin America. And in the span of the night, Cristina Fernandez made my business illegal, which was just allowing them to invest in international exchange-traded funds, mutual funds, things we think of as normal, because she wanted to keep all the money in Argentina. She wanted to lock down all of production, and she wanted to own everything. And because of that, the economy cratered overnight. And some of my friends who own businesses there had them taken away. And we had a mass exodus from Argentina, and the country has never really recovered. And I watched that. And so now when people say, Codie, stay in your lane, don't talk about the government, I don't talk about Republicans or Democrats. I think they're largely the same in many ways. I talk about the fact that we have to protect our own freedoms, and that I will do everything I humanly can to fight for each one of you to be your own sovereign and to be in charge, and to have no big brother or big government tell you what you can and can't do. You don't need it. I think that you are more competent than most people who wear a little flag lapel on their pin and try to tell you that they're here to protect you. And so today I thought we got to look at something that's a little crazy, which is what's happening with government spending. And I want to break that down, but I wanted to tell you why. Because if we let the government become what Argentina became, which is somewhere where they nationalize the economy because the government doesn't know how to build, government only knows how to protect and how to spend. They are not innovators. You guys are. And I don't want us to become a poor replica of a country that has more wealth and beauty you can imagine. Argentina's gorgeous, but sadly people in power who don't believe in the individuals. They believe in the collective. And so let's talk about what the hell's going on in the world today. We're going to do this pretty quickly. We're going to break it down, and we're going to come up with some ideas for what to do next. Okay, first, as of July 26, 2024, the U.S. federal debt has skyrocketed to $35 trillion. Almost equal to the size of the economy. Not fun. Listen, the thing is, this is not actually new news, as the U.S. has been running a deficit for a very long time, since 2001, meaning we've been spending more than we earn and borrowing to fill that gap. Things got even worse after March 2020. You guys all remember this, COVID, when central bankers started partying like they just closed an IPO and had bottle service at Tao in New York. You just picture the little central bankers shaking their champagne bottles. So why should we care about this? Well, economic ruin does not sound fun. And not to be dramatic, but this debt could lead to a budget crisis, higher interest rates, and economic instability. And so I think we got to really understand it. Because more than that, long term, it could hurt America's standing in the world, which candidly, we can't afford right now. I thought I'd do an episode really clearly breaking down what is going on, why it matters, in a way that won't put you to sleep, but will make you sound smarter than either your neocon, perma-war uncle at the family gathering or your kind of commie, money is a human right cousin who's never had a real job. Cool? Okay, we're going to break it all down. And we're going to read up on what some of the brightest minds in business have to say about this. So let's steal their homework and get into it. But first, don't be greedy. Share the pod with the needy. I repost all of you who tag me in your Instagram stories sharing the pod. So make my day and your bud's bank account swell and share this episode. We see a ton of people downplaying our economic situation, and it makes me nervous. Some of the smartest minds in business are starting to sound the alarm. The contrarian view here is that we should actually be listening to these warnings. You see, our economic challenges, it doesn't mean that we're about blind optimism or doom and gloom. It's about facing hard truths, considering unconventional solutions, and being prepared. All right, so Elon Musk has been sounding the alarm about our financial situation. I know some people don't like him and think he's mean or think he's not great, and that could all be true, but he's definitely smart. And anytime somebody has a bank account bigger than I do and has built something bigger than I have, I like to at least listen to part of it. And I want to break down and see where I disagree or where I agree. But with a guy like this, it's worth seeing what his brain is thinking. So he said things like, the dollar will be worth nothing if the US doesn't do something about its national debt, like this tweet right here. And he's basically talking about the fact that this tweet talks about interest payments on US national debt will shatter 1.1 trillion this year, eating 76% of all income taxes collected. And I think whether you like the guy or not, he's pretty much a legend. And so let's quantify him before I use a few more takes from him and a few more of his research. So think about this for a second. I think that Elon Musk might be one of the best CEOs of our generation. And then you might go, Cody, you're just a fangirl. You're an Elon stooge. Okay, let's qualify this in a few different ways. Do you run a business that is harder than rocket ships in space? No, you probably don't. No, I fucking don't either. Okay, well, he does that business. And not only does he do that business, get this stat, 60% of all satellites in Earth's orbit are now from Starlink. 60%. Look at this image, which basically shows of the 10,036 satellites in the Earth's orbit, Starlink has 6,800 of them. How about from this perspective? The US will launch like 159 rockets this year. SpaceX has already launched 84. Last year, he launched 96. Okay, so he's pretty good at space, one of the hardest games out there. And oh, by the way, if you fuck up, you die. That's pretty serious. But it's not even talking about what he's done in media, electric cars, batteries, and open sourcing that technology. If you think about it, a friend of mine, Balaji, has a great tweet where he talks about how hardware is one of the most difficult tech or businesses that you could run. And then you add the fact that he's going electric, space, reusable rockets, and managing 3 multi-billion-dollar companies simultaneously. I think his pain tolerance must be unrivaled. And on top of that, anyone who thinks he's bad for the economy is either lying or so dumb as to be irrelevant. I think we should pray that our best and brightest, like him, continue to exist and that our government is 1/10 as efficient using our tax dollars as he is using his shareholders' dollars. In fact, I think if you're wondering if you should date a woman and take her home to your mom, or if you should date a guy and take him home to your dad, you should ask them what they think of Elon Musk. I think it is a great litmus test of intelligence to ask somebody, do you think that Elon Musk is better for society or worse for society? If they say worse for society, cut and fucking run. And so, before we get into more, I just wanted you to know what the man's accomplished, because I think it's really easy to look at Twitter and say his memes are dumb and I don't like that he did this or that. But we've got to go one step deeper than this. So when I was looking at more data from a couple people that I respect highly, from Elon Musk, from Balaji, from another one of my good friends, Brian Westbury, who's an economist, I pulled together a bunch of information on the debt crisis overall in the US. And what I thought was fascinating is we've been running a deficit for years, obviously. And at which point, most people on the internet will go something along the lines of, this doesn't matter, we can keep printing capital, we're the tallest of all the midgets, which is a way of saying that, we're the best economy in the world still, even if all the economies aren't that great, at least we're better than theirs. But there's a couple things that that are different than at any time. One is, look at rising interest costs. I mean, the government is spending more and more just to pay interest on the debt. This is becoming one of the largest expenses in the federal budget, which you can see right here looking at this slide. And then look at social programs at risk, like Social Security, Medicare. They could run out of money in the next decade, leaving millions of Americans without critical support. I think if you also want to have a litmus test of an intelligent person, the next question should be, can we continue to have social programs structured the way that we do? Or should they be need-based? Because at some point we won't be able to have an input like this for one generation to the next. In fact, Scott Galloway has an incredible TED Talk basically talking about how these programs are stealing from the youth to give to the next generation. And I think that is actually true. I think if you're a mom, a dad, a grandma, a grandpa, and you look at this data and you don't think that you are stealing from the youth to pay for your generation, you're not looking at the math very clearly. Now, the problem is that the government can't seem to do anything about this. Lawmakers don't want to fix it. It's very unpopular. But why? Because voters are not young people. Voters are middle-aged to older. And so it's human nature. We vote in our self-interest, and those who are older are going to continue to vote these programs on. And, I think there's a really interesting post out there by Balaji. He basically talks about the true state of the financial situation in the U.S. and talks a lot about debt, borrowing, and the value of the dollar. What's interesting, I'm going to break down 3 of these graphs. So the first one, we basically see how when the government puts a program in place, they rarely pull it back. This is important to know. It happened during TARP, that's the Asset Relief Program, which happened in 2008, post-financial crisis. It happened on 9/11 with rolling out widespread ability to keep us safe, but also learn a lot about its citizenry. Never pulled that back as well. So in 2003, the Fed issued more emergency loans than during the 2008 financial crisis. Think about that for a second. If you look at this graph, you can see it's like, 5x more emergency loans in 2023 than 2008. If you guys weren't around in the workplace in 2008, it was bad. I was actually at Goldman in 2009, 2010, which was the worst part of the crisis. 2008 is when it started. You saw the first trickle from Lehman Brothers, and like a game of dominoes, you basically saw one bank fall after bank fall after bank fall. And in 2009 and 2010 is when Goldman really got it. And we had to go in front of the Senate and give a bunch of commentary about what had happened in the financial crisis. So what is scary to me is remembering what happened in 2008. If we are anywhere near that in 2023 to 2024, it's scary. If we are 4 to 5 times that by the federal government, I'm actually not sure how to quantify that. Then if we look at it from this level, all right, so emergency loans, not great. Maybe that's not that big of a deal. Well, let's look at borrowing levels. The U.S. is borrowing more now than during the COVID-19 pandemic, with interest rates around 5%. So during COVID-19, we were basically at 0% interest rates. Now we're at 5%. You guys know what that feels like. Have you tried to go get a house lately? Have you looked at the difference in interest rates for the mortgage you could afford 2 or 3 years ago versus now? That is what's happened in the government at scale. This graph is basically showing you, oh my gosh, we are issuing trillions of dollars in bonds. And oh, by the way, we're paying really high interest payments to do it. The next graph is basically showing you interest payments on the national debt that we have. And what's crazy is for the first time ever, we have net interest. So just us paying our interest payments. It's like you having a credit card that instead of you paying off the amount every month, you just pay the interest that you accumulate. That fat debt is still sitting there on your credit card. And on top of it, you're barely making interest payments. Well, for the first time ever, our net interest payments in the US, we pay more towards those than we do our national defense, which is scary in a world in which China's China and we have what's happening in the Middle East, and we have what's happening in Russia. Then we got a trifecta, in case you guys aren't ready to slit your wrists already, which is the dollar devaluation. So the dollar's lost 25% of its value in just 4 years. 25 cents of every dollar that you own, you have lost because of devaluation of our dollar over the last 4 years. If you were to go back to the 70s, we're talking about losing almost 75% of $1 in just that amount of time. Then, interestingly enough, who owns most treasuries, or the way that we fund our economy? Who is our mom and dad funding our bills? Well, that's China in a lot of ways. China holds more treasury securities than anybody else, but Rutro, since about 2010 when they peaked, 2014 when they peaked again, they are now back to almost historical lows of how much they own of treasuries. So China doesn't want to be our buddy and stabilize our economy anymore. So I talk a lot about business buying and I get a lot of questions about it. One of the most common questions is, where do you find a business to buy? The answer is sad because the worst deals are oversaturated marketplace sites, but the best deals are off-market or curated. Either way, finding a business to buy basically sucks, and I think it should suck less. So that's why we've built something for you guys, BizScout, a business buying marketplace full of only the best deals for both on and off-market. And BizScout is just built different, okay? We've got verified buyers, so the best sellers are actually interested in selling. Scout sites, aka at a glance, what's the quick analysis of this deal? Off-market data, so you can get all the info you need to direct outreach efficiently. Embedded lending, so you can get your financing for the business right where you buy it. BizScout is going to change the face of Main Street buying and selling. Probably not immediately. We have a lot more work to do, but I want you guys to be part of it, to be part of the buyers and builders in this next round. So you guys are one of the first to hear. Go to bizscout.com and check it out. Then we've got the BRICS. I remember when these got created when I was at Goldman, which is Brazil, Russia, India, and China. It's a grouping of countries that came together to sort of combat U.S. dominance, right? They came together and said, what if we create a coalition between the four of us? Well, it turns out that many people outside of the U.S., including the BRICS nation, which are a huge block of power, are buying large amounts of gold instead of U.S. treasuries. I mean, check this out. You can basically see that during the financial crisis, we had record high levels of gold bought. More gold than I know how to quantify. We got Fort Knoxes of gold all around the globe. Well, guess what? We're just about to surpass that level of gold held in 2024. And gold holding is usually an indicator of a risk-off trade, which basically means, oh man, I'm worried about what's happening in the economy, so I'm going to pull back risk. Then we've got de-dollarization. So China has started to use its own currency for most cross-border transactions. What does that mean? Well, in the past, if you wanted to do a deal like China and India, or if you wanted to do a deal China and Latin America, China would use US dollar, Latin American countries would use US dollar, and that would be their trading currency. China's now said, nah, we're going to use our own. We're going to use the yuan. And that basically means that we're seeing more deals done in Chinese currency than the US currency, at least by China. And that's not great because that decreases the amount of liquidity and usage of our own currency, which we don't want. Then we made another kind of series of dumb decisions. We had a sanction on Russia and Europe that we thought was going to hurt Russia, but actually ended up hurting Europe more. So we said, no natural gas, no energy for you, Europe. We're going to shut you off from Russia because Russia really needs your cash. Turned out not to be the case. The other problem with this, it's like a little highbrow to understand, is like, imagine we used to use the dollar. You were supposed to use the dollar as a government. You were supposed to say, we do not politicize our usage of the dollar. You just go out and for anybody who wants to use the dollar, trade it back and forth amongst people, go off and prosper. Well, the second that you start politicizing the dollar, which means saying, hey, we are going to use sanctions on Russia. We are going to tell them they can't trade in USD. Well, what happens? They start using other currencies and going to other providers, and that's what's happened in Russia. Then the other thing that's a little scary is from a peacetime perspective, usually in times of peace, not times of war, debt goes down. But what has happened to us since the 1900s? Well, we have skyrocketed post-2000 to some of the highest levels of national debt we've ever had. And all of this together tells me that there's something to worry about. And we'll get into answers of what you do next, but have you ever tried to solve a problem without having proper context for a problem? Have you ever started to sit down and think, how do I fix my business? It's not working. How do I fix my relationship? It's not working. Well, if you go to fix your relationship and you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to love language the shit out of them. I'm going to buy her so many flowers and gifts and presents and outings. And you don't actually understand why your wife is upset is because she just wants quality time with you and you to listen to her more and you to be kinder to her. She doesn't want fancy things. She doesn't want flowers. If you don't understand the situation you're in, you can't actually fix it. So I think one of the most important parts parts of this podcast is to understand what's going on in our world around us so that we can fix it and we can prepare for it properly. So what's interesting is, according to my friend Balaji, who is the CTO of Coinbase, one of the smartest men I know, and did this famous tweet right here: I just burned 1 million to tell you that they're printing trillions. His point here was, I'm concerned about the chance of a crisis. And so Balaji thinks there's a 10% chance of a crisis happening soon, a 70% chance in the next 2 years, which is scary because he's very smart. Now, what does that look like? If you look back at history, it took just 2 days from the collapse of SVB, you guys remember Silicon Valley Bank sort of collapsing and everybody freaking out, to then the government printing $300 billion. Within 2 weeks, $500 billion was withdrawn from local banks seeking safety. That was one bank and its ripple effect. Lockdowns due to COVID-19 were implemented just 2 months after the virus hit the U.S. The financial crisis was only acknowledged 2 quarters after Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Fed at the time, mild recession, famously, mild recession prediction. And then, Balaji says, the USSR transitioned from a superpower to collapse in just 2 years. And so his point here is multi-pronged, which is we have major issues all across our economy, which means that you guys need to learn how to become asset holders more and more. We need to learn how to become asset holders, because if we add on top of this the commercial real estate crisis that I think is happening all around us, you guys have seen it. You travel around to different parts of your city here in Austin, Texas. If you were to drive any street with eyes to see, you would see vacant commercial centers. Why would that happen? Somebody owns those. Why would they just be sitting there empty? Well, they're sitting there empty because in order for them to sell it, they'd have to mark down their portfolio, which means that they'd have to say, we told you investors this was worth $100, it's actually worth $20. And because of that, they're going to have a ripple effect through their entire portfolio. It's also why they aren't leasing those things out. Then we've got pension crisis. We've got underfunded pensions to the tune of like $1.4 trillion with a T. We've got auto loans rising in their default rate, which means people not about to pay them. I think that's also at risk. We've also got record high credit card debt. So $930 billion in credit card debt in the U.S. This is a all-time high. And then we've got more people moving away from the dollar. So we've got some serious issues here in this country, which is why I impress upon all of us to really think about how do we get to financial freedom and protect ourselves from an environment in which we have global uncertainty that we've probably never seen before. I think maybe the only place that's worse off in some degrees is Europe, because they're literally playing a game of 1984 between the government instituting that somebody could get jailed because of what they tweet or put on Facebook is something that I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. All right, let's get into some wild and crazy stuff now that we're talking about 1984 in Europe, because why not? Crazy idea. I don't think it's awesome to have Facebook CEO Zuckerberg tell you that he was lightly coerced into censoring news during the last election cycle and also during COVID. I don't think it's awesome to have a founder of a tech company arrested in France for not sharing information on citizens. I definitely don't think it's awesome for governments like the UK and the European Union to say that they would come after even US citizens for things that they say online that they don't like. Elon Musk posted this tweet, which is sadly kind of true. It's 2030 in Europe and you're being executed for liking a meme, which increasingly feels like that could be reasonable. But what's fascinating to me is we don't seem to be very good at second and third order effects. We think that if one party tells us something we don't like, we should censor them. But we don't actually think about the opposite, which is what happens when your party or the opposite party from yours says something that you don't like. What happens when your guys go out of power and the other guys come into power? Then you just play a game of going after one another. It's why we shouldn't arrest former presidents for political reasons. It's why we should make sure everybody gets free speech, even when we don't like what they're saying. And it's why we should make sure that we push back on censorship anywhere we can. And yet, for some reason, this has become non-normalized. It's become okay for people to say that you shouldn't be allowed to talk. Stay in your lane. You're not an expert. Motherfucker, no. I'm an expert as an American in the First Amendment, which is that we have the right to free speech. And I do not think we should allow anybody to push back on that. Now, I got to read this next thing to you because let's go back to Argentina and Venezuela, where I had a business before. So if you've never been to Venezuela, you probably didn't know that if you wanted to buy a chicken, this is how much money you would need, or about 14 million bolivars, which is their version of $1. That would be the equivalent to $2.22 USD. 14 million bolivar to $2.22. Now, how did it happen where in Venezuela, their currency became worth so little that they make purses out of it like this on the street? Like literally you can have a purse made entirely of dollar bills. You know how that started? Price controls. 2 words that sound awesome and actually are not, which is probably why that quote is true, that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It just sounds so good. I go to the grocery store and I see the prices of groceries today and I get pissed. I'm like, why do I have to pay $20 for this fancy organic XYZ? The problem is that we don't want the government to set anything. And let me explain and I'm not going after one candidate or another. I won't even say who said this idea about price controls. All I will say is, if you want a masterclass in price controls, go look at Venezuela and Argentina and see how it worked out for them. Spoiler, not great. So, I want to read you a tweet from a friend of mine. We should just listen to what he has to say about it. This is a friend of mine, Robert, who is the CFO of a company. He's saying people need to stop overreacting about X's plan to reduce food inflation, as it would lead to communism, mass starvation, and the end of America. He's like, come on, I worked in M&A in the food industry. Here's a step-by-step summary of what would actually happen. Step 1, the government announces that grocery retailers aren't allowed to raise prices. Grocery stores, which operate on 1 to 2 net margins, can't survive if their suppliers raise prices. So the government announces that food producers, next line, also aren't allowed to raise prices. Okay, well, not all grocery stores are created equal, so stores in lower income areas make less money than high income ones, right? Because these aren't able to cover their overhead, grocery chains start to shut down. So that means we have food deserts in rural areas, in low income urban areas. That becomes even worse. Meanwhile, margins for food producers going down. Their primary costs, ingredients, energy, and labor, aren't fixed, and they have shrinking profits. So, number 5, grocery stores, which have finite shelf space, start to repurpose their stores, those that didn't have to shut down, to sell more non-price controlled items. So your local Kroger or Safeway starts to look and feel more like a Walmart. Food producers then stop making products with lower margins. No eggs or milk or bread because they can't make any money on it, so their businesses are starting to die. So then they compete on things like payment terms and how long you can pay for something. Then small grocery chains start to shut down entirely, so whole chains, or they get sold to larger chains like Kroger. In addition, not being able to cover the fixed costs, a major reason is because they can't secure delivery of products due to producers prioritizing sales to larger customers and those that might stay in business because they have to float sometimes the customer payment. So the smaller food producers, which typically sell via distributors rather than right to the grocery stores, they go out of business because these producers have an additional step in their value chain. So they actually have higher costs because you're a smaller guy. As supply chains break down, lines start to form outside grocery stores every morning. Now, cities assign police officers to patrol store parking lots, and food producers draft contingency plans to assign armed escorts to delivery trucks. Step 10, the federal government announces a program to issue block grants for states to purchase and operate shuttered grocery stores, because government's here to help. The USDA also seizes closed down production facilities because you're not allowed to close down. 11, the government announces that prices for all key food costs, corn, wheat, cattle, energy, are now fixed to stop profiteers, in air quotes, from gouging the now government-operated food industry. 12, shockingly, the government struggles to operate one of the most complex industries on the planet. The entire food supply chain starts imploding. What happens next? Communism, mass starvation, and the end of America quickly ensue. Hey, wait a second. And you have to laugh at this slightly, except that it's a tale as old as time. I had a friend who ran, I kid you not, a distributor for Mercedes-Benz in Argentina. And when Cristina Fernandez came in and took over the government, they nationalized his business and they mandated he produced coffee. This motherfucker knew nothing about coffee, but they could export coffee. And she no longer wanted to allow imports of Mercedes-Benz. So what happened? He tried for a while before the business went under because he had no idea what he was doing. That is the problem with when we try to have the government as big brother taking care of anything. And like, this is where some people go, well, some price controls are great. And you're right. Some price controls are necessary so profiteers do not gouge the American public. Like, for instance, you could say, what about pharma? What about those fuckers in pharma just charging us $1 million for everything? And you'd be right in some ways. For instance, US drug prices are roughly 3x higher than prices anywhere else. And yet we account for roughly a third, up to 60% of the revenue of US pharma companies. In some places, price controls are intelligent. Like, for instance, we should be thoughtful about life-saving drugs and trying to make sure that we have price controls so people can have access to them and there doesn't become a massive amount of profiteering. But the problem becomes when we think that something that works on the edges works across the board. And that is the truth of what's happening right now in the US. So the truth of the matter is, we got some work to do. But I think what you need to realize listening to all of this is that your ability to earn is really focused on two things. That is your willingness to continue to do what it takes and your ability to pick the right market for you. That market increasingly is something that you have to think about when it comes to federal and regulatory oversight. Lots of people these days like to play in online businesses, for instance. They like to play in businesses that seem a little bit sexier. But guess what? In a market in which we're coming into a recession, in which things might get harder, you are probably going to be happier with a plumbing company that everybody needs, as opposed to a gaming company online, as opposed to starting that e-commerce store that you saw with some one-off widget that nobody really actually needs. When times get tough, there's always a way to make money, but some ways are a lot harder than others. If you guys think we should do an entire episode on what to do in order to make money and continue to persevere in a down market when we have a recession, if the market continues to get more difficult, let me know and we will do that on one of these next podcasts. But in the meantime, remember this. Whenever the government says, I'm from the government and I'm here to help, they're typically not. And I am talking about red, white, blue, purple, whatever the fuck color they show up as. The only good government is one that is at a distance, allowing you to be able to continue to do the things you need to do on a daily basis, as opposed to mandating you do one thing or another. And that is a hill I will die on. All right, if you guys thought this was useful and an interesting way to break down some of the stuff that we're talking about so you can be more intelligent in conversations where people want to get emotional about politics and economics as opposed to being rational about it, let me know in the comments. We're going to maybe do more of these current events because I think in a world so crazy, we've got to know what's going on so we know what's coming. See you next time.
and go see a movie. That's dead. Done. It's gone. It's not coming back. It will never come back. Now I'm not saying you can't like go out and have fun with your friends and watch a movie. I'm just saying that now there's so many other ways to consume. So to me, it seems inevitable that, whatever the previous idea of the biggest name in food being on television, I don't think that exists anymore as much today. But I don't know, it depends. I don't have a crystal ball. It just depends on where the attention is. And to me, it seems quite diffused at the time. And even the biggest heads in television and entertainment are looking at that and going, and they're thinking, kind of scratching their chin, thinking, well, what can we do to, build this out properly? I don't think anyone's going to, die in the process. I do think that there will be like mergers, but it seems to me that the internet is the place that people go to consume food media.
Yeah,
nowadays.
Totally. I was meeting with an A24 executive the other day, and she was telling me that in their conversation with the streaming services, all of them are sort of pondering how to include like streamed first-person POV or user-generated content into their systems.
Yeah.
It actually is crazy. When she was explaining it to me, I'm like, that is wild that actually Netflix has no optionality for anything like that, because it seems like such a low-hanging fruit for them, and it would be free as opposed to how expensive their cost is.
Totally.
How else could you compete against YouTube, which costs them $0? It costs you $500,000 to build this location. If they were going to do a Netflix series, they'd have to build it all, but you've already done it. And they could just stream you on the service, just like YouTube does. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens.
Yeah, totally.
Well, let's talk about the monetization of food online and entertainment. I was looking at a bunch of these online food cookers, chefs, etc. And I was kind of laughing because everybody's got a tagline, right? So you've got like Alleviated, who says like horngry and
no, that's who is that? That's
is that somebody else?
Oh, who is that?
My husband's going to be so upset that I can't remember this. Yeah, Susie. Alleviated though is the one that flicks off the camera.
Yes, Olivia. So it's funny. This actually happened really recently. So Olivia's a friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
She came here. She flew out. We, filmed 2 videos. It was super fun. She was very chill. I appreciated that very much. And she like blew up out of nowhere. It was crazy.
Uh-huh.
And then there's this other girl, Susie Vidal, I think it is.
That's it.
And I actually had just discovered her a week ago. Olivia texted me and she goes, "Do you know Susie?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I saw one of her videos like yesterday," which was, it was a day or whatever. I'd recently seen him. I was like, "Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about." And she was like, "Dude, Susie has been watching you for like 4 years. Like, we got to get together." So anyway, shout out Susie and Olivia.
And I thought it was kind of brilliant because she has this like, instead of OnlyFans, it's OnlyPans.
Yeah.
And then she, instead of being hungry, she asks if you're horngry.
Yeah.
It's like perfect for our generation.
It's great. Yeah.
And then Olivia has the little flip off. And then you have multiple signature moves from like the eyebrow. Were those cult? Do you guys
I think they're
get
just,
together
I honestly think all of mine are not intentional at all. I think they're just like tics or something that I do at this stage. Like I have a camera on me all the time. So I just like kind of do shit. I've never intended to create any taglines. But sometimes the audience, honestly, I just do things and I pick up on when the audience loves a little thing that I do. And, maybe sometimes I do it more often because I know they like it and I do it for fun. You'll notice if you look through my comments, like everyone. So I was kind of the one who started like really going deep dive on big recipe content that does big views, that's applicable for everybody. Right. Yeah. And so because of that, I used to make this joke where I would go, what did I say? I don't know. It sort of started along the lines of I started to get annoyed with people because they would ask so many questions that I had already answered. So I was like doing voiceover, and one time I was like, "Don't worry, sweetheart, all right? Papa's got you." And I just did it sort of as like a silly joke. I don't know what happened, but I got into like people's like daddy issues and daddy kinks because of that. But also just people in general because of like the fact that I'm like teaching. And people are kind of looking to me for direction. People refer to me as Papa, like in person and in the comments and in my DMs. Yeah,
I'm only calling you Papa from now on.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. Like all my comments, like literally, I posted this video. Like I've been like dieting for a while, and I'm starting to like finally get some physique response. your guy's too damn good looking. I'm like trying to compete with him in the gym. I like see him doing something. I try to put more weight.
You said you guys were working out the other day.
Yeah, he's good looking. He's a good looking one. So I'm like, I'm over here. Yeah, good work. Anyway, so I've gotten more fit, and I posted this video of me like, it was like my exposed back. I don't know why I did it, but I was like
very saucy.
Yeah.
Wait, let's show the video.
It was unintentionally saucy, really.
Okay. It was like, you were like that chick that like kind of wants to show you her outfit, like not all the way. You were like kind of over your shoulder. It was great.
My intention, what's funny?
The back looks good.
Thank you. I've noticed that I think that's like my biggest asset. I realized that I have good genes for a good back. And I saw it and I was like, holy shit, like I really built my back out. This is going to show how lean I've gotten. Because I've had this back and forth with my audience. I'm like, I'm getting shredded this year. This is happening. So they know I'm doing it. And so I was like, I'm going to show off my leanness because you can see how lean I am in my back. And it was just a video that I took. The video was like 2 minutes long. I just did the part that showed off how lean my back was. And I was like, oh, people will get it. No, dude. No. And so everyone's like, Papa, more like daddy. And like, Jesus Christ, y'all. I am married.
She probably thinks it's funny too.
Yeah,
I like it.
She's actually less enthused about it anyway. She's like, yeah, you look good. And I was like, oh,
cool. Yeah. You know what? I think mustaches, goatees, and probably your back are just for other dudes.
Yeah, it's true.
So I think that's, my husband's the same way. Beards, it's not for me. It's for
dudes
every other dude.
love me. It's crazy. Way more than women do, for sure.
When you create your content, you were like, I think one of the early people to create food ASMR cooking videos.
Probably not.
And do you even call your videos that? Because I think it's kind of a cool idea. Like if I'm listening to this right now as the audience, and I'm thinking of creating content in some way, shape, or form, you talked earlier about like, I wish I could make them smell. Well, you can't do that, but you can make them hear, you can make them feel, and you can make them see.
Totally.
But a lot of times people forget the tactile sensation of hearing and how addicting it is.
Yeah. I don't know that I started the ASMR ones like generally, but I know for sure that I was the first, if not one of the very first, like within, like you could count on one hand, that was producing food content on like TikTok. That's where the short form, right? Because there wasn't even IG Reels at the time. It was just TikTok. YouTube Shorts didn't exist. IG Reels didn't exist. It was very sort of a silly underground place to be. If you want to know who got me into it, it was Gary.
Smart. He's not often wrong about social media.
No, he's not. I'll listen to anything that man tells me. But I was lucky enough to kind of, I built a relationship with him and his team, and we talk from time to time, and he's great. I love him. And I remember him like just constantly posting about TikTok, and this was very early on. I went on there and started producing content, and they blew up every goddamn time because I was the only one doing it. So it was very much of lots of attention, very little production of content. I just kind of ran with it. And then everything, I like to call all these like different TikTokers and short form people my children, because they don't realize that they're all copying. They may not be copying me directly, but they're copying someone else who copied me, or someone else who copied them, who copied another person. It ultimately leads to me. Because the whole quick cut editing style stuff started with that.
Like you like slap the bread. Throw the butter on, sizzling, lots of like, unfortunately in the beginning I did a lot of sexual innuendos. I noticed that they got pretty good traction. So I did utilize that. Here's a funny story for one that I did. I used to slap my butt, which I really regretted. I really regret doing this. I used to show my ass, not my whole ass. Just a little piece.
So what happened was, there was one video that this is when I was just me editing. Not a very good editor, by the way. And I was editing a short form or a TikTok video. This is like maybe my 4th or 5th or 6th TikTok video, maybe 10th. And they all did pretty good. I upload the video and it does like 8 million views in like less than an hour. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this? This one's going crazy. It's not even that good of a video. I'm actually pissed off that why didn't the pizza one do better than this? It was like it was like a grilled cheese, or I don't even remember. And I accidentally left in about 25% into the video. There's this shot where I meant to cut off the back half of that clip, but I didn't. And it was 5 seconds left in the clip that I didn't cut. And in that 5 seconds, I turned around and bent over to grab something out of the drawer. I guess I cut it. I didn't cut it short enough. So I did cut it, but not short enough. And so it's literally just me turning around and full ass bending over. The only reason I realized that is I went in the comments and they're like, Jesus Christ, he's got 2 yellow onions back there. That's crazy. I started doing that. and they went viral every time I did it. And then I stopped doing it because I was like, this is weird. And now other people do that too. Have you seen that guy, the guy that sexualizes everything in food? I can't remember. Is it like Cedric something?
No, what does he do?
Cedric Lorenzen.
Oh, I gotta check this out.
I don't even know if you can show a clip.
Really?
It's really sexual.
Okay, we're definitely showing a clip. So let's see if we can. That other guy who says like, bon appetito betches or something.
Oh, QCP?
Yeah, QCP.
Yeah, he's wild.
There seems to be a formula for cooking at this moment videos. In cooking videos, the formula seems to be like there's obviously some ASMR component of it. It has to be cut pretty quick. It has to be like relatively accessible recipes. Like they can't be too wild and crazy.
Yeah.
And then there's some funny entertainment aspect to it.
I would agree.
Do you have like a formula? You're like, this is what works now?
I also think there's another thing in that as well.
Yeah.
I think it's, or you have presence. Ooh. People know who you are. Right? If Cameron Diaz was in this kitchen and I took a video of her and she had no formula, I think it would probably do pretty good. Right?
That's true. Yeah.
It's Cameron Diaz.
Yeah.
People know me pretty well and me and food already. And they know me because of my YouTube channel and so on and so forth. So I think that honestly, a lot of my videos do well just because it's me.
Yeah.
And I don't really always consider formula, but we do have generally a direction a video is going to go before we produce it. I think the number one thing, the formula that I always follow is, honestly, I follow my own viewing intuition. Very much of like timed cuts, if that makes sense. So I'm very formulaic on how long the attention span lasts per cut. And that's really the main thing that I follow. But like in terms of a saying or like having a saying or whatever, that might make sense for someone starting out that doesn't have a presence already. Yeah. I feel like if you are starting out and you don't know where to begin, especially with food content, what you should do is figure out who you are as a person and reflect that. Don't create a character, because a lot of people create characters. And I don't think that that's a great way to be happy.
No, I think you get stuck.
Yeah, find who you are and emphasize that. You know, if you're like the quiet person who's awkward, fucking let that out. Be awkward on camera. Be quiet and weird. I'm telling you, it will do well. There are so many videos of weird ass shit that do well, and I think that will cultivate an audience of people who associate with that type of a person.
Like you're pretty much exactly the person I see in your videos, except maybe your videos have a slightened volume turn up effect.
Totally.
But like everything you do in them, I go, oh yeah, I've seen that face before. Like
exactly.
Just hanging out.
I don't put on a character. If anything, I put myself in a moment. I'm like, oh, what's the energy in this shot? And I just need to bring that energy out, right? If I was like, you know, I show up and it's 9 a.m. and, you know, I just had my coffee and I've already worked out and I'm maybe just still kind of like, you know, in my head about something that bothered me earlier. And I show up on set and I know that we're filming pickups for a shot that's 10 minutes into a video. I'm not going to be like, all right, and then you put the butter in the pan. You know, it's like, oh, they've been watching for 10 minutes and I was talking a certain way. I just need to bring that back in, you know, so that's the other way.
How do you guys create a ton of content.
Yep.
And you create really high value content and you seem to go viral every single time. You're getting huge views across multiple platforms. How do you keep the creative aspect flowing with the fact that you're like a production house now?
If you make a video and it does crazy views, the first thing you should do is not give a fuck. You need to get out of the whatever feelings you have attached with those views. You need to murder those feelings and look at it formulaically and figure out how to rinse and repeat that process. But honestly, the bigger you get, people think it's like, there are things that are easier. It's wonderful to have a production company. You know, I pay people pretty well, and it's expensive to run a company. Very expensive, actually.
Yep.
Look, I'm not going to say numbers, but the simple reality is if you are going to run a business and you're going to produce content and you're going to pay people, please understand that it's going to feel very volatile. It's going to feel very stressful. It's going to feel very pressuring. And now all of a sudden the videos that you're producing, they have to perform. So how do you make that work? Well, you need to have a thick skin. You need to be ready to that should not bother you. You should still be able to be creative and expressive. And how are you creative and expressive? By not being stressed out. Good luck with that. So I think a lot of people will fail there. So first ask yourself if that's something you want to live with. But That said, the way that we do it is it's very feeling based. I have, my top performers that are always by my side. We're always working together on creative. I mean, you saw it on the front of these doors. We have written on the front of our doors to the kitchen, it says honor the audience. I think in the same way for a chef, what makes a great chef is not just making good food. That should be the easy part. Good food should be the easiest fucking part of your job. What makes a great chef is first being the artist, but also being the business person, being the financial analyst, being the marketer. That's what makes a great chef. So if that's what makes a great chef, then to me, that's what would make a great content production studio, is you have to be both. And the best way to mesh it is to bring out your creative, allow yourself to be creative, come up with things that resonate with you, because if they resonate with you, they'll probably resonate with your audience, but then find a way to honor their presence when they're watching you, which means, you know what? I love this shot. I don't think everyone's going to love this shot as much as I am. I just don't. I just know. I know that people will watch this 2-minute segment of me doing this thing and maybe, maybe 100,000 people will appreciate it, but I need 9 million people to appreciate it.
Yeah. It's really, I think one of the toughest parts that I've realized about the content game is it is the most competitive game there is. There is zero moat to this game, and you are competing for the highest and most expensive commodity that we have in this day and age, which is people's attention.
Yep.
It is the only thing that we cannot create more of, and we have infinite optionality for what to do with it.
It's true.
I mean, you are competing with Donald Trump in the same time that you're competing with the hottest new Star Wars movie, in the same time that you're competing with every single TikToker and actually the algorithm of TikTok driving the most viral things out there.
And it's free.
And it's free.
Anybody can do this.
Right.
You're competing with every single human being on planet Earth because anyone can walk in and just make content.
So I think it's a really good thing to ask yourself, do you actually want to play this game?
Very competitive. You have to have a thick skin. But also I think the biggest thing, because I feel like the way I said it made it sound like I don't enjoy this. I love this shit. I love doing this. I love it so much that the competition is not me. I don't feel like I'm competing with anybody. I don't feel like I'm fighting to beat X person. I'm fighting because I want to do this forever. And if somebody thinks that they're going to beat me because they want to make better content than me specifically, they will lose to me. They will lose.
Why do you think you have that type of attitude?
It's sort of like fighting for necessity over fighting for glamour. And I think when you fight for glamour, you eventually will fizzle out and lose not just steam in terms of viewership, but you'll lose the motivation to do it over time. Because if you're fighting for something that doesn't actually really matter to you, and actually matters more to other people, like your image and how fancy you look and this, that, and the other, you're gonna run out of energy. It's really hard. You really have to be fighting for something that feels more like necessity, and something that I fight to continue to do what I do. I love to do this. I want to do it forever. And yeah, I mean, that's a tough argument to beat.
I was thinking about this idea yesterday that I'm calling the law of more, which is basically if you look at some of the best producers or artists of all time, like Picasso, you mentioned before. Picasso has something like 200,000 prints and paintings that he did to become the most prolific artist of all time. If you look at Taylor Swift, she was back and forth between being on tour or creating an album for the entirety of her career since she's been 16 years old.
It's crazy.
Which is why she's now almost has more albums than any other soloist.
Yeah.
I do think there's some balance between quantity eventually becoming, with relentless focus, quality.
Absolutely. How can you create quality without the reps?
If you want to be great, do a lot.
Yes, that is the game. Volume is the game, 100%. Working in restaurants, it's all I really know. I didn't go to college. So a lot of people like to make fun of me sometimes because they're like, oh my God, he always talks about how he works in restaurants. It's all I know. What do you want from me? People talk about when they went to college, they don't get shit on for that. I didn't go to college. I didn't have any formal studies. I went and worked in a brutalist environment, and I worked in fucking restaurants. And the number one lesson that I learned was you can become great at anything if you are willing to perform the relentless amount of repetition that it requires to become great at it. And it may be 500 times, it may be 5,000, it may be 10,000, it may be 100,000, it may be 1,000,000. It depends on how quickly you learn. It depends on so many factors, but I do believe that anyone can be great at almost anything. It's just how many reps is it going to take, and are you going to be able to do all those reps?
Yeah, it's so true. I've become kind of friends with Tim Grover. Tim wrote a book called Relentless, and I think it's a really good screen. If people love that book, they're going to like working in my companies. If they don't, they're not. So I agree with you there. Now, one thing you did that I think is fascinating that you don't get enough credit for and people don't talk about is the book launch. Like, I want to obsess for a second on how to launch a best-selling book in a way that is not ads, that is not, even at the time you had a big audience, not the biggest audience, but you sold hundreds of thousands of copies of a cookbook before cookbooks were like mainstream everywhere. Talk to me about how you did that. How do you get 3,000 people to line up to wait to see you for a cookbook signing?
Yeah, that was wild. And also, for reference, for the cookbook signings, any of my audience watching, we're working on creating a better method. Okay, we weren't expecting that many people to show up. We didn't do any paid advertising. There wasn't like, oh, let's put a billboard up. It was all completely organic push for the book. Funny enough, actually, we did do one ad campaign. We did for free. We were doing this thing with Pinterest. We were working with Pinterest, and they gave us free ad space. We used the ad space. But you know what's funny? Less than 1% of our sales came from that.
Wow.
And the amount of ad space they gave us was $200,000 worth of ad space. Less than 1% of my sales came from that.
What was the difference?
Authenticity, I think.
Yeah, but it's way more tactical than that. You were systematic as a motherfucker when you were inserting your book. Like, I went back and looked through a bunch of your videos. It's almost like you never marketed because you were in restaurants, but somebody taught you the book. Like, you would be cooking and then you'd be like, yeah, I'm thinking about chicken legs. Ooh, like on page 57 in my cookbook.
Yeah.
Talk about that insertion project.
It became tactical because I care so much about the viewer's experience. So much so that I modified my marketing perspective to whatever I do, if I'm going to promote my book, it will be in a way that is entertaining and not just totally boring and disruptive from the content that they chose to, so kindly give me their time to watch. The last thing I want to do is deter them with a shitty promo.
What would that be? A shitty promo would be like you with the book, like, look, I've been trying to hit the New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah, like people say you should be direct with the audience and say like, oh, my cookbook is out. I mean, I did say that, and I did have some promos like that. Like I did, right? But if every promo is like, my book is out, go and get it. Like, that's not meaningful. Like it feels very much like, give me your money, motherfucker. And I just I'm not like that. And certainly it's frowned upon from the world that I come from. Always be reserved. Don't, ask for too much. And so I was just trying to avoid being like that. And I think that's how we formulated the whole marketing around, if we're going to have you buy something, we're going to make it entertaining. And even more than that, we're going to lead up to it with value before we deliver that. We're not just going to go, book's out, okay, now let's get to the value. It's like, no, value. By the way, silly fun thing, goo goo gaga, I'm going to wipe my butt with my book, which I did. Not literally, but I made it look like that. I launched my book by wiping my ass with a page of it. I tore a page of my book out. I was like sitting on the toilet and I look over and the camera cuts to the empty toilet paper roll and it cuts back to me and I pull up a sheet of my book and I'm like, and then it cuts to a black screen, and then it's basically like fades in. It's like, my book is officially out. Like, da-da-da-da. My publisher was like, dude, I can't believe you did that. Like,
did it
please,
work?
Please, please delete that out of the video. I'm like, we can't. Yeah, we sold like 60,000 copies that day. It was crazy.
So it's basically like giving a little bit more love and juice to the idea of even trying to get your audience to sell something or to buy something.
Yeah.
Honor the audience would be, I mean, sometimes when I'm talking to my team, I think, one, you should never write a love letter to whom it may concern, right? That makes no sense. And yet most marketing is not named towards you, is not written like you would write a text to a buddy, and is not actually going to get somebody to pick up and do something.
Yeah.
It's written like a corporate speak that makes you want to gouge your eyes out. Yeah. And so instead, yours is kind of the opposite. And you almost lean into the thing that you don't want people to do, which is think that your book is shit.
Yeah, I've also done campaigns where I was like, here are the things that my book is good for. Using it as a shovel, or like using it to put hot things on it. And I put a really hot pan on it. It caught my book on fire, because it was so hot that it literally caught the pages on fire. And it's just sort of like, just being silly. And there was one where I literally said, don't buy my book, fuck you. And a ton of people bought it. You know, and it was sort of like this thing of like, what it tells the audience is it's not reverse psychology. I mean, maybe it is, but I wasn't trying to be reverse psychological. What it tells my audience is it says, I don't fucking care if you buy my book or not. I made it for you and I worked really hard on it and it's good. And you've trusted me all these years. Here it is. If you don't want to get it, I don't care. Like, it's good. That's it. Me writing the book is good enough for me. And most people, I think, can really resonate with that. And they can sit back and go, wow, you know, he doesn't even need me to buy this shit. But I've watched him for, 3-4 years or 2 years. He's always been consistently good. Why wouldn't I get it? And look how confident he is in it. Yeah, like, sure, I'll buy it. It's, $20 or whatever,
What is the process when you're thinking about ads for your book? Do you think about it just like any other type of content?
I treat it exactly like content.
Yeah.
Which is what's the creative? What's the story? Is there a story? Is it a joke? Is it silly? Is it serious? Is it angry? Is there a point I want to make with it? It should be entertaining without the book being there, basically. It should be entertaining without the product being there. Are we going to put it in a scenario where it doesn't belong? It's like, it's a cookbook. Should we pretend to do an ad about getting a lobotomy and like do something crazy where like I pretend to have a lobotomy and I'm promoting my book and I have no idea what's on the inside of the book and that's the creative? It's like, if it is just fun to watch, that's enough for me, and you can never guess how many people will follow through with it until it gets to them, right? So at least if you entertain them, it's better than nothing.
I think I want to tap really quickly into, so we've talked about how to sell books. We've talked about how to build a content empire. We haven't talked a ton about how your goals have changed over the course of, you were 21 when you first started. Is that right?
Man, was I? Holy fuck.
You're 28 now.
How old was I? Jesus, I honestly don't even know.
Early 20s?
It was probably 5 years ago I officially left. So yeah, so 5 years ago.
5 years ago. So 5 years ago, you leave the restaurant and you probably just want to replace your salary, right? You're like, I just want to, well, you had already by then. I just want to make more money than I do at this other place. And I want to be my own boss. And I want to grow online. To now, I have a best-selling book. Oh wait, I have 2 best-selling books. Oh wait, I'm one of the biggest YouTubers out there on cooking. What is next, and how has your goal changed as you've climbed your varying mountains?
It's funny, it actually hasn't changed. I would say most people get into this nowadays by accident, right? They're like, oh, I made this video and it went viral one day and then I kept... No, motherfucker, that's not what happened here. Like the 2 hours of sleep every night, that was not by accident. Yeah. I didn't accidentally, hustle my ass off. It was very much of like when I started, I knew exactly what I wanted to build. And that vision of what that is, that like thing that I see in the distance is still there. I look at it every day. And I have been looking at it for probably the past, decade of my life, or maybe even longer. Because, I started cooking when I was 5 and I've cooked almost every single day all the way up till today. And so I've done the fucking 100 million hour rule, whatever that is. When I was 11, this is the differentiator here. When I was 11 or 12 is when I saw Gordon and I was like, I want to make something like that. I think I can do something like that. And he was a big inspiration for me. And that created a goal in my brain then. And so every decision I've ever made has always been this North Star that I'm looking at, which is to build what I'm building now, but much bigger, with varying different things. And, I don't want to give the whole thing away. But that big goal has never changed. I think the only thing that has changed is the way I approach things. I'm much less emotional about things. I approach things much more analytically. All the sorts of things that you go through when you build a business is like, you get beat up a bunch and then you kind of learn how to regulate your emotions.
You almost run out of money. You almost get sued. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. You almost get sued. Totally. That's happened. And you just kind of learn, oh, this is just running a business. Okay, cool. Well, I have this part down and this part down. What else do I need to learn to get better at this? What else do I need to try out? And you learn how to be like, oh, the next venture, I need to take a risk again. Fuck, I need to feel the sense of risk again. And that's where I'm at right now, where I'm like, I'm taking on more risk now to do the next step.
Yeah, there's got to be some huge correlation between risks taken from a business perspective and amount of success had. Yeah. Because I think That's the biggest thing that people don't understand. If you're not risking something, I mean, the other day we just raised a bunch of money, and I put in millions of dollars for a company that we're scaling in the SaaS space. And I bought it, and now we're building it. And, you know, I told some of the investors that gave us money, you know, I, knock on wood, have never lost money for anybody to date, and I'm not going to start now. And he kind of turned and looked at me. His name's Donald Park. He was like, if you have never lost anybody's money and you have never failed on a business, you are not taking big enough risks. And I was like, or I'm really good. He's like, never the case.
Whoa, that's crazy. That's deep.
And it's kind of true, right? Like if you haven't done a video where you're like, this video, I do not know if it's going to work, and we're going to spend $30,000 on it, and fuck, it totally failed, but we learned a bunch of things from it.
Yeah, it's happened.
Yeah.
Bunch.
What do you think's the most money you've lost on one video?
75,000, I think.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah. I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on videos. Yeah, multiple six figures I've lost on videos, but it's sometimes difficult to calculate what that really means, because what is a loss on a video? Especially on long form, because long form is really powerful. It's not like short form. Someone can watch a short form video and not give a shit about you. They can watch 20 of your videos and not give a shit about you. But long form is a commitment. You're watching a 30-minute, 20-minute video. I mean, people are, my video is like 20, 25 minutes. People are watching television show, basically. It's like you could look at the back end of YouTube and basically go, how much money did the video make and how much did I spend on it? And then do your math and be like, this was the ROI, right? But that's not always the case though, because if you gained 50,000 subscribers, solid subscribers from that video, and then they all watch like, 100 videos each, then you're way above your ROI from that. If you think about it, I see it more as an investment than a loss, but I try to be careful with that as well.
Yeah. Well, I think, creating content online is sort of like running a startup, even if you've been doing it for a long time, because you just have to spend so much money consistently on content with the hopes that it'll eventually turn into more money, or just an ability to continue doing the thing that you love to do. And I think that's the hardest part that people don't realize as content creators, is they think that they're artists, but they don't realize your component, which is this business component.
That's true.
I want to wrap up a little bit on the food front, or my husband will kill me, because he hates being called the word foodie, so I won't use that. He likes to cook. Word. It's a naughty. Why is people hate that.
It's just cringy. It's just kind of
like I'm a breathy.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's like, I would have said that in 2007 and looked back at it and regretted saying that. I don't know.
I've heard, for instance, that some chefs like cooking for themselves but not for others, or like cooking for others but not themselves, but there's a big chasm between the two.
Oh, wow. I've actually never thought of that before.
So which one are you?
I don't like cooking for myself as much as I like cooking for others.
Interesting.
Yeah, by far. I'll spend days on a dish, and by the time I'm done, I'm like, God damn, I don't want to eat this shit. Yeah, somebody else eat it.
Interesting.
I've been looking at it for days. I do not want to eat this. I'll have a little spoonful and I'm good.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to serve it to people.
So that's the nurturing aspect that you talked about.
Maybe it is. Or it's like me being like, I know the best experience of this, and I want you to experience it and enjoy it the same way that I do, and I'm going to create a situation where you can. I
was reading some studies the other day on women today, and more than 60% of women today have never had a man cook for them below 35, which I thought was fascinating.
That makes sense.
And I was wondering, one, what's your take on that? And two, do you think it's like an unfair advantage as a man to be able to cook and to like cooking for another?
It shouldn't be an unfair advantage. It seems like such a basic thing. We're the only animals on the planet that cook our food before we eat it. Why does everyone not know how to cook? That's like a evolutionary enigma. That's incredible. It's literally in our DNA. Yeah, it is an advantage. Totally. It was my advantage. I'll tell you that. It's definitely my advantage for a long time. Okay, my wife knows. It was definitely my advantage. And it was my advantage with her too, by the way.
Do you teach a lot of young men how to cook? Like, do you see them in the comments learning from you and implementing it?
My audience on YouTube is over 75% men.
That's great.
Isn't that crazy?
And my husband, yeah. He's
it's
just rewatching it like a creep. So if you're new, I know this is like a 101 level, but say you're a dude, because most of our content is dudes watching it. Say you're a dude and you want to impress a chick, but you suck at cooking. Where would you start? Is there like 3 dishes that you're like, this is doable, but also a crowd pleaser?
Totally. Before you even start, you need to research and understand the person you are cooking for.
Yeah.
Do not assume. Do not assume. Don't think that you're the big shot that's going to make the big fancy dinner. Just shut the fuck up and listen and figure out what kind of a woman they are. You know, what if they're vegan and you don't know?
You break up with them immediately.
First you have a very, very important conversation.
Just kidding.
Yeah, more important than anything. You do pretty. One time I found this vegan cookbook in Kate's desk, and it was like a movie scene where you find like a text,
yeah.
But instead it was a vegan cookbook, and I was like, what is this? And she's like, oh, it's like a vegan cookbook, and I'm like, I can't be with you if you do this.
I literally have a meat dryer?
A dry ager. Yeah.
I have a dry ager.
Yeah, if you don't like the smell of 42 dry aged ribeye come fresh out the fridge, being sliced into a 2.5-inch thick steak, it's gonna be cooked perfectly to 135 degrees Fahrenheit, internal, medium rare, and top with an au poivre brandy sauce, you fuck. We can't be in love.
Exactly. And she ignored you and walked back into the kitchen.
Yeah.
As one does.
She's like, you're done.
Ask them questions first.
Figure out who the person is, figure out what they like to eat.
Audience demographic survey. Got it.
Now, assuming that they're a meat eater, assuming that they, like beef, I would always have a beef dish in there. I think beef is really easy to make luxurious and nice and fun. Save that to the end if you're doing coursed out. Another thing is a dessert. Pick a really nice dessert or a dessert that's easy to please, like chocolate chip cookies. I'm telling you. Oh, yeah. Telling you.
Totally.
You gotta have a dessert in your arsenal. If you make a killer chocolate chip cookie, I think that alone you'll win.
What's like the one little trick? Is it just like sprinkling a little Himalayan sea salt on top? Is there like one little secret?
Sea salt. Whoa.
Shows you.
We're going traversing to the mountains or some shit.
Yes. Yes.
The trick is using my recipe.
Yeah. Page 42.
No, I don't know.
Okay, fine.
I don't know. But in my first book, I have a really good chocolate chip cookie recipe. If you do need one, you're going to use. But that aside.
Okay, so steal that.
Yeah, so steal that. It's a chocolate chip cookie or some sort of dessert. And then I guess the third, like it could be a protein, or I would say some sort of nice either side dish / appetizer or like a starch. Like a really nice mashed potato or like a risotto.
Do you have one you really like?
In the new book, I have a 1 pound of butter mashed potato. That's really good.
Okay, that sounds amazing.
It's insane.
So we got a mashed potato. We got a what? Is it like a steak? So what we're going with? Steaks seem intimidating to me. Like, seems like you could really fuck up a steak.
It's really not hard. I think that's why it's such a great choice. The first thing I cooked for Kate was a steak. Seal it, dude.
Okay. So it's actually pretty straightforward. You follow the recipe. You don't have to French feel it. And a steak is doable for most humans. Okay.
Yeah, and I think just honestly, there are so few men that cook, I think, for their ladies in their life or the ladies they wish were in their life, that just cooking, you're already so far